Greetings, all you winners. How's it going tonight? So happy that you're here. I know there's a lot going on, but I'm glad you chose to be here tonight because this show is a long time in the making and it'll be worth the ride. I guarantee that. Let me say hello to all the people in the front row. Daisy Williams, how you doing? Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. T3, as always, thank you for being here and all that you do. Jacob Peach, my man, what's up? How you doing, brother? Happy that you're here for this ride tonight. It's going to be very interesting. Cool gamer. So happy that you're here, man. You're always here early. I appreciate you being here. Thank you. Thank you. Jacob Castro, what's up? What's up? We got the Jacobs in the house. Yes, yes. All right, man. And everybody on Rumble and everybody on the Rewatch crew. Hi, how's it going? Thanks for being here. This is an interesting story tonight, man. As you can see, man, it's just me. I'm back tonight just it's been a long time since I've done a Unveiling Reality, just hanging out with you guys, man. I'm excited about that too as well. I know there's the Republican debate going on tonight, but you know what? After the first one, I think I've seen everything. I mean, I don't. I guess it'll be good entertainment. Maybe we'll do a rewatch or something. But I just, Trump's got it in the bag, so I'm not really worried about the rest of it. The best we get to see Vivek out there, wreaking havoc, saying getting some good one-liners in. But it's basically gonna be a bunch of establishment talking points, and I just don't need that. I've been around for too long doing this. I already can see what's going on, and therefore we're gonna go back to a time tonight when I was out there fighting for truth, real truth, not truth or truth, but real truth. And the Ron Paul revolution. Yes, we're going back in time. We're getting in the time machine. We're heading backwards in time to 2011, 2012 in that area, and then we're going to walk on up to present. But we're going to go back to the days when I was with my group out there fighting for truth and liberty every night. And we're going to explore that time again. And one of the big assignments, the big one I talk about is the crisis actor staged event narrative. And we covered that. I was thinking tonight I may do a recap of that again, although, and I do kind of have the episode of that in a members only section, so that you can only see that original episode in the members only section. I think because it was just so early on, and it was just, the quality is but it does have a lot of information in there about that and what we did, that this group did for that assignment there that we gave ourselves. And we uncovered this thing that actually turned into what Radix Verum is working on today, in terms of exposing this racket of getting informants, and winding up groups up. And this story tonight directly connects to that as well, and in a major way, because all the stuff that had to do with QAnon, like all the plan and all that stuff about the the secret takeover and the way that we're going to do it, and the signals from secret sources that are outside of the mainstream, like that you're being talked to directly by this group that has a plan that's going on, and you must trust the plan. Well, that all came from Drake. And I know a lot of people are like, what? Who's this Drake guy? Who's this Drake Kent Bailey guy? Well, Drake Kent Bailey is original Q. A lot of people don't know that. In fact, when I told Radix about it, she was very interested in it. And she was like, wow, I should have invited her for this. But honestly, when I thought about inviting people to come along with me on this ride, I was like, it's just going to be them sitting here listening to me anyways, because I have all the information and I was the one that was there. And so I think it's best served that people just kind of listen from the crowd tonight. Feel free to ask questions. I'm much better at keeping an eye on the chat these days than I have in the past. And I got someone in my ear to let me know if I've missed anything. So this all helps a great deal at making a better show for you guys. But yeah, we're going to take a trip back, man. So we're back around 2011, right? And the Ron Paul revolution is in full swing. This is my second run with the Ron Paul revolution. Well, second run, it never ended, but the second run for him going for president, right? And the second time we went for president, really felt like we had a good shot. We had learned a lot the first time, and we were prepared this time. We had gotten out there. We were working every night and every day, spreading the word of liberty, spreading the word of what the false left right paradigm, and so on. But within that, I was beginning to realize that there was a lot of groups out there that wanted nothing more than to destroy this grassroots movement, man, and this hope that we had for a president that was honest and that would lead us in the right direction, that would end the wars, that would address the issues that concerned us of the day. One of those issues we'll be covering on Sunday at 7:30 p.m. for Old School Watch Party Sundays with myself and T3, and that is the GMO and fluoride issue with our food and water. Now, we're going to be covering that then, but that was one of those issues that we had a major concern about. And I'll just leave that for Sunday. But another one was, the subversion of the Constitution, what seemed like, the left-right paradigm, the establishment controlling both sides. These were all things of major concern to patriots of the day, and that's what rallied the Ron Paul revolution more than anything, as well as ending the wars, these useless neocon wars that were going on all over the country that probably many of those people over there in the debate tonight would love to see continue. And they'd love to bring that left-right, that false left-right paradigm back as well, where the establishment controls both sides of both political parties and can basically do whatever they want, pushing their agenda forward. And as we can see, when we let them do that, things get really bad, right? So aside from the crisis actor staged event narrative that was trying to discredit patriots, there was a group that emerged that led by a man named Drake Kent Bailey. All right, Drake Kent Bailey. There you go. And this group was called Global Voices, right? And so they had a Facebook page, group that would this is a group. Everybody was kind of conglomerating it, right? And we got wind of this guy, right? And I listened to one of his. I went over to investigate him and see what was going on. And they yeah, and it was called Universal Voices as well. They had a couple different names they went by, but he had a blog talk radio show, and he would do these shows, right? And you think I talk a lot? This guy could go for 3 hours straight, just spinning yawns and stories like you wouldn't believe. He was a great storyteller. He's still around, by the way. I'm going to talk about him like he's in the past sometimes, just because I'm referencing the past. But he could go on and on, just tell a great story, and he had this really kind of charismatic, kind of enduring voice, this old country voice. We're going to hear an interview with him, a couple different interviews with him tonight over the span of times. But we're going to be listening very shortly to the breakthrough interview that he had with David Wilcox at the time, the one that broke him into the scene and to this truth scene that was out there. Now you have to understand, at the time there was the truth scene, which was really the truther scene, right? There was the freedom scene, which is like the kind of like a militia type, right? And they were kind of interested in constitutional rights. There was some sovereign citizen stuff going on in that scene a little bit. All these scenes had co-opting kind of elements to it that we've learned about here on Unveiling Reality, second veil things. And then there was also the liberty scene, and this is the one that was legitimate. This is the one that was the Ron Paul revolution. We called ourselves the liberty movement, right? So we were all about bringing back liberty and educating people on liberty, and that was really at the core of that. So you had these three different movements going on at the same time, right? And they were all trying to do different things. My group spanned that kind of like those three groups, right? I mean, the freedom group, not too much, only because they didn't ever kind of legitimize, like, if you either want to be in a militia or you don't, right? And at the time, and it's still, I think, at present day, militias are can be questionable groups. They tend to be really, really driven and infiltrated by feds. And we're going to see tonight that was no different back then. And so it's not really something we were interested in as much as focusing on truth and liberty. So in order to preserve truth, we would go about debunking conspiracy theories. And you see my work, right? I'm bringing my work to you now in present day that I was doing back then. So we're going through these rabbit holes. We're learning about these different types of dead ends that people could fall into at the time. This is when I discovered the second veil. Like, this is when I understood what the second veil was. Because as I explained many times on the show, when you come out of the first veil, you think, okay, that's it, right? Now, everything outside of this is going to be truthful, people working towards truth, legitimacy. And you find out real fast there's a whole bunch of other traps waiting for you. And there's this thing that you have to go through called the second awakening, right? That when you have to realize there's another veil of false information out there, another narrative out there, meant to entrap you and entwine you in a different way, but in the same way as the first veil, right? Entrap you into this narrow point of view where you cannot come together to make reasonable solutions, and you cannot conclusions, and you cannot really come together and heal the division, right? This show breaks that down, those veils, so that we have a better understanding and we can move forward into a solution culture, and the essence of this channel. However, at this time, right, um, what I ran into was this group, and I was, like many things back then, I'm figuring out more about them. I figure out more about them after the fact that I knew at the time. At the time, it's just like go go go. What are we gonna do? How do we combat this? How do we stop this? Then they had a big group of people that they easily could block you from the Facebook group, and then you could have no reach inside there. You couldn't be effective. So we had to infiltrate the group, be part of the group, right? And be somewhat disruptive. You had to be selective about the way you push back on this and that. If you were just flat out, laying into them, they're gonna kick you out. And I did get kicked out a few times and brought back. Just luckily, I knew a few people on the inside that would, I'd be like, well, what was I kicked out for? And I'd have a sob story, and they'd bring me back in. So I learned that way how to be a little bit more clever and crafty in my language, and still be able to be impactful. There's a lot to the story. So I hope you guys got a drink and some popcorn or whatever you like to snack on, because man, we're gonna take a ride across time, and it goes like this. I discovered this group, and I went back and reported it, and I said, these guys are definitely trying to co-opt the Ron Paul Patriots. They're trying to do something with this. They're talking about this plan. This guy Drake says that he has this knows that insiders. He claims he's a militia guy. We know that he's an ex-Vietnam vet. That's confirmed. And so he says it's military contacts and all of that. That there's a growing number of patriots in the military and in politics and in other places that understand that there's a dark cabal out there that's running this show, right? And that we're never going to be able to win an election or get anybody elected if we don't have any kind of momentum underneath the scene, kind of like moving in and doing work on the inside, and his whole stick was that they were already working on and drawing up paperwork and having private meetings to have a mass arrest scenario. So what the promise was here is that the day would come when we would see all of our favorite villains walking out in handcuffs and perp walking, right? And everything that he talks about is this glorious outcome that everybody wanted. It was a beautiful story full of all kinds of great things that everybody at the time wanted, because you have to understand, people were living in the second veil at that time, and they were very, very afraid of what the future could bring. Ron Paul talks about the dollar collapse. We saw wars being spread out. There seemed like there wasn't a lot of hope, right? We'd already been blasted out of the primaries one time, and here we are on the second time trying to get this done. And we're seeing the mainstream media pull the same trick, keeping Ron Paul out of the debates, minimizing his great accomplishments, like very, very little press, and just ignore him, don't put him out there, and people won't figure this out. I've gone into the stories about what I did kind of leading up to this election, how I got ahead of it before Ron Paul even announced he was running. I was already debunking the neocons and putting out all their airing their dirty laundry to everybody, so that they would have people would not look at them the same when they were glorified in the media, right? So that was our tactics with the Ron Party, and that's the way we kind of approached it. That was very overt, kind of out there campaigning kind of group. The group I was in had several different groups within it, and I've explained that before in the past year, so I don't want to spend too much time on that. But I want to go into the fact that we went into the Drake group to understand whether or not he was legitimate. Like we give him a pass, at first. Okay, is this legit or not? Because it's the first time we've heard these things. All this stuff sounds really good. At this point, we're looking for some kind of miracle. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Let's give this guy a chance. Let's listen to what he has to say. Great storyteller, and with a lot of tasty little tidbits. So this is how it started. Let me start pulling up some stuff for you guys to look at. And this is how it started. And we're going to listen to this interview as well. Let me get here. Here it is. Here we go. Oh, I almost clicked off the tab. That would have been embarrassing. All right. There's so many tabs open right now, guys. I'm going to be showing you a lot of stuff. So it's going to be a very visual show. I guarantee you that. I just wanted to set it up right. So I don't want to invite guests. Okay. Present. I don't need audio. There's that. Okay. Here we go. So there's this guy, and we talked about him recently through the rabbit hole, the UFO rabbit hole, UFO alien rabbit hole. Hey, Caitlin, how you doing? Welcome. Glad you're here. Memento Mori too. There you are. I see you. How's it going? Yep. All right. So here it is. Okay. So this is the initial surfacing of Drake. Now, Drake had been around before, right? He had done numerous things, but just none of them were notable, right? Oh, cool. Awesome. Thank you, Caitlin. We'll be here. We got a long ride. I'm also wondering if I'm going to be able to get through this one in one night, but I think I am. So anyways, this guy, David Wilcox, who runs Divine Cosmos, right? He's one of these UFO alien dudes, on the Galactic Federation of Light kind of rabbit hole. He doesn't get too much interaction with the disclosure people, but he does interact some with them. He adopts, we just went through this for 13 episodes, so we know what this is all about. He's one of those guys, right? You can see here it was posted on April 5th, 2012, right? So I'm starting to realize that 2012 was really the year that we were doing this. We hadn't gotten to the elections yet, but it was getting close, if I remember right. So 2011, crisis actor, states event narratives, and then 2012, the Drake guys, right? The Drake original Q stuff. So this is just kind of goes through it. I'm going to show you this, but I'm not going to read too much of it. You can see mass arrests. Oh, this is the one where I'm going to have to lean over this way, isn't it? I'm okay. Let me switch my headset to my headset real quick. Sorry if the audio takes a little bit of a dip here, but this will make it easier for me to read. Okay. And at this point, I won't be able to see the chat that well. So I'll check back in a second here. But can you guys see that? Let me scroll in. Whoop, whoop. Let me get rid of this guy. No, don't need any AI tonight. All right. So this is one of the things, like the mass arrest, right? Former Asia Pacific Bureau Chief Benjamin Fulford. This is another guy that we probably should do an episode on, because I he's one of the guys who had another kind of scam ring at the same time. They do cross paths. So that might be the next episode, is to look at his stuff. And he was over in Japan, so maybe I'll get Max Muir on to do that with me. I think he knows something about him, but I'll have to double check. I know that we did have discussions about him at one time. I'll double check. But anyways, first, to break the story, and as far as I'm aware, he has been talking about it for at least 3 years now. So the complexity of an operation like this is staggering. This is the cabal effectively controls this cabal effectively controls the media. So you'll notice that they refer to the powers that be as a cabal, right? The dark cabal. You'll hear this over and over again, right? And it uses murder, torture, blackmail, and bribery to ensure it's never exposed. Well, and so that's a lot of things, isn't it? I became personally involved by interviewing Fulford several times now and posting the transcripts, which have never ceased to be fascinating. Yeah, fascinating. And in addition, I began directly working with some of his top contacts behind the 134 National Alliance of countries ready to end financial tyranny as of last November. Now, this stuff never happens, of course, but that was his whole thing, that they were going to kind of like buy out the Federal Reserve or something like that. We'll have to re-examine it. It's a really complex, like, little rabbit hole that spans the globe, but it comes down to some seriously funny stuff at the end, like they the comical unveiling they did of their group was hilarious, man. I saw that, I was like, oh my god, you wouldn't believe how funny this stuff is. If there are mass arrests, if these mass arrests do occur, and I very much believe they will, of course you do, David, this will be at least as significant as 9/11 in world history, if not far more so. And in this case, it will be significantly positive, not negative. Everyone will be talking about it. There will be no possible way not to talk about it. The scope will be that vast and all-encompassing. So if this kind of, they're throwing some stuff out there for you right there. And then Operation North was kind of building it up with some history that's somewhat legitimate. And they So you look down here in his page. Now, the Wilcox has a way of introducing people like Fulford and Drake into the second veil mainstream. Let's just call it that, right? So here we go into some of the stuff. These aren't there anymore. I'd play them. They're gone. But I did find the interview he did with Drake. But I want to show you this. Okay, here we go. Introducing the plan for mass arrest. This is David Wilcox. And then this is Drake. Okay. So David didn't get it at first. Drake came along the internet recently. I was sent an email by him announcing that he was going to have some radio shows. Well, yeah, he sure did. One of his radio shows, his blog talk radio shows, was so massive that it took down the blog talk radio site. Like they couldn't handle the amount of traffic it got at this time. That's how many people were listening to this. And as I show you some of the other stuff that's out there, you're going to be amazed at how many people were falling for this at the time. Now, remember, this is 2012, okay? Remember, 2012 and 11 are significant years. A lot of people were living in fear. A lot of people were scared the end was coming. They felt something going on. There was a big awakening that was left over from 9/11 that had matured into a point, and had reached a certain point that there was enough people that they could start making noise on the internet, right? But when the email first passed my desk, I didn't quite catch the impact of what it was saying. Up until now, the only people who have really been reporting on these pending mass arrests whatsoever have been, again, Benjamin Fulford, right? And Jake would make references to Benjamin Fulford as well, but he'd never quite connected. And that was kind of like one of the things like, wow, it's funny how these guys are connected. So I was actually following them both at the same time. But with Drake, I could actually be in front of him, right? I could be there for his big talks on Facebook and his blog talk radio and be part of the little group that he had there. In both cases, a little group, it was a huge group. In both cases, we have together and independently sets of contacts, some of which are deeply embedded within the Pentagon. So here you go, deeply embedded contacts in the Pentagon. So bringing some legitimacy to what these we feel like is going on, right? Who have been reported to us that this is very real. In fact, I had heard from an off the book source. Again, these off the book sources, embedded sources. You'll hear this terminology a lot. This is not somebody who's going public at all. That has been this has been sparked by 9/11 to a large degree. Yeah, because that's what woke a lot of people up in terms of getting like, what the hell is going on in this world? Many people in the military realized that they were not in the chain of command of need to know, right? This was not Arabs with box cutters that caused these buildings to fall into their own footprint. If that could happen, if kerosene can melt steel, then every kerosene heater ever built would be a massive hazard. So that's how they justify this. We know more about that now, but this is Wilcox's mindset, right? So something's going on here. Something is going on here. People know about it. They're scared of it, and what I call the sheep effect. They feel like that if they keep their heads down, then the wolves won't know that they've been spotted. The sheep who's dumb enough to look up and stare at the wolf's eyes is going to make him charge. That's the one who ends up dying. Well, I don't know about that. If that's true or not. I'm not afraid of death. Neither is Drake. He's here, and he's put a public face behind something that up until now has sounded like two guys stroking their egos, trying to say something that makes everybody feel good but has no teeth behind it. Well, that's exactly what Drake was actually doing. Anybody else pop in when I have my head down? Okay, great. I'm glad you guys are here, man. Thanks for coming along for the ride with me on this. To Drake, and now you are here, and I want to hear what you have to say. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you get into all this? Okay, so then there's a sound of an elephant roaring, evidently. Drake was fully vetted out. Okay, so that's the intro to Wilcox and how Drake got his launch, right? So what I want to do now is I want to bring this up now. I'm going to tell you right now, we're not going to listen to this for 3 hours, but we are going to listen to a good bulk of this. And now you're going to really get to hear Drake for the first time. Let me stop sharing. Uh-oh. Hang on. I did something. Everything's being funny. Hang on there. It'll come back in a second. I locked up my browser. I hope you guys can still hear me. Baby, come back. Oh, everything's locked up. Give me a second. I think I'm gonna hear my ear. We can't hear you. Just give me a second here. I'm watching the chat. Okay, there we go. All right, we're back. We're back. Hello. Whew. I was locked up for a second there. All right. Okay, thank you. All right, where is the screen that I want? Let's get rid of, let's minimize that. Oh, here it is. Okay. Boom. All right, guys, here we go. Ready to hear Drake's story? This is it. This is the one that launched him. Here we go. I found it. It took me a while, but I did find it. This is gonna be super entertaining. Okay, I probably, oh god, let me know if this is too modulated. Yeah, that means like it's just like it sounds like crap, right? All right, there's David with his giant head. Yeah, and I'm so embarrassed. This guy's from my hometown, or at least he has this little office there. You know, his little divine cosmos center. But you know, good thing I moved away. So
or who has just come.
Here we go. Here he goes. Dramatic piano plays.
And
enough of that. Stop. Oh, I can do this.
And you're listening to a Divine Cosmos audio blog.
Here we go.
Today's date is, let's see, the 28th of March. It's a Wednesday. It's 6 p.m.
Elephant, how you doing? What we're talking about tonight? We're talking about original Q, Drake Kent Bailey. You guys want to catch up in the chat so we can get this rolling? But basically, this is a guy that had the original The Plan, right? And the reason why I bring him up is because QAnon followed much later on, but they adopted a lot of his rhetoric. They adopted so much of it that it made me come into question. Like, you know, I always felt like there was something going on behind the scenes with Drake. Like, where did this come from? Why was he here? How did he get to a place he was at? How did so many people buy into what he was saying? Where did he come up with his stories? Like, how did he create this stuff? Right. That was the stuff. But really, my group back in the day took him on to keep him from co-opting the Ron Paul movement, and not the whole thing. You can never do that, but a good chunk of it, and to keep the people that were not as sophisticated about information out of the rabbit hole, out of his grasp. Right. So we went through and debunked, distracted, and disrupted his little attempt to bring true Ron Paul patriots into a bad place, discrediting them, bringing the Ron Paul name down with it. So that was part of what it is. That's the high level. But we're getting ready to listen to his initial interview with David Wilcott, the one that launched him, where he explains the whole thing. So here we go.
Pacific Standard Time. And I'm here with a remark.
Oh, does anybody not know who QAnon is? I thought everybody knew who QAnon is by now. If you don't know who QAnon is, I did do a show with Radix, not the last one, but the one before that, where I went over that and we showed some stuff from it. So QAnon was a psyop run by obviously run by the feds, but a psyop to trick Trump patriots into charging the Capitol, right? So basically to discredit them, to lure them, to make them believe that they were in contact with Trump directly through this guy named this person named QAnon, who existed on the 4chan boards, right? So that was the idea of what QAnon was. Q Anonymous is what it stood for. So yeah. No, hey, no, you're all good, Elephant. You're all good. I get you. No worries. We're here to learn, man. We all learn. So I'm glad you brought it up and asked. Okay. And if so, I can go into a little bit more detail for you. Maybe in the chat, or maybe at another time, but I can definitely help you by directing you to the Radix Verum interview. The first one I did with her, it's called The Redo. That's still out there and available. So here we go.
Remarkable new whistleblower who has just come forward. His name is Drake. That's what he's going by. And I contacted him because I have been covering this story about pending mass arrests. You have to understand the scope of what we're talking about here. We're not talking about 10 people, 20 people. We're talking about a systematic, potentially worldwide effort, although most of these conspirators are in the G5 countries, so I've heard. But it's a very widespread effort to effectively give us as a planet a massive dose of antibiotics against an infection that has been threatening to almost completely destroy its host. The host being the earth and its people, and the animals and the plants and the trees and everything. So Drake came along on the internet recently. I was sent an email by him announcing that he was going to have some radio shows. But when the email first passed by my desk, I didn't quite catch the impact of what it was saying. Because up until now, the only people who have really been reporting on these pending mass arrests whatsoever have been Benjamin Fulford and myself. And in both cases, we have, together and independently, sets of contacts, some of which are deeply embedded within the Pentagon, who have reported to us that this is very real. In fact, I had heard from an off-the-books source, this is not somebody who's gone public at all, that this had been sparked by 9/11 to a large degree, that many people in the military realized that they were not in the chain of need to know, and that this was not Arabs with box cutters that caused these buildings to fall into their own footprint. If that could happen, if kerosene can melt steel, then every kerosene heater ever built is a massive hazard.
Yes,
But
I
yet
didn't
they're
read
all
all
sitting
that.
there just fine. So something is going on here. People know about it. They're scared of it. And in what I call the sheep effect, they feel that if they keep their head down, then the wolf won't know that he's been spotted. But the sheep was dumb enough to look up and stare the wolf in the face. Neither is Drake. He's here. And he has put a public face behind something that up until now has sounded like two guys stroking their egos, trying to say something that makes everybody feel good, but has no teeth behind it. And now here you are, and I want to hear what you have to say. So why don't you tell us a little about yourself and how you got into all this?
Well, what I'd like to do in conjunction with that is let people know what we're not.
Okay, great.
This will give everybody a better idea as to what's going on.
Oh, I'm sorry. One more thing I should point out is that I called you the other night, and we spoke for 4 hours and 20.
You think David would have put a picture of Drake up on the screen too? I mean, this is like kind of wild. We're just like looking at Wilcox the whole time, but we're really talking about Drake. I know, it's so funny. He's such an egomaniac. But right away you're like, oh, it makes you wonder, right? It's like this guy said that embedded sources in the Pentagon told him it's very real, So right away, either he's really in the know, and this whole thing is like very special, or he's just like he's a con man out of the gate, right? So, anyways, I wish I could put a picture of Drake up here so we could see him at the same time. I'm going to work on that in the background.
2 minutes is what the phone said when I hung it up. And I called you jointly with one of my very senior top insiders. So you will now be able to vouch that you spoke to him and how amazing that discussion was. And more importantly, I've trusted him, built it up over years, and he vetted you out and actually identified dozens of specific points that you said that are not on public record that you could not have known unless you are the bona fide, authentic, real deal. So I want to make that point first.
Cool.
So some disclaimers you said you have to give us here. What are you not?
Yeah, there's a boatload of people who would like to jump on the bandwagon and get whatever they can get in terms of snatching names or name dropping, that sort of thing. They post a website with a certain name and everybody gravitates to it because of this or that. Whether it's selling anything or not doesn't seem to matter. Basically, and I want to make this absolutely clear, there's a thing called nation states. Now, the project we undertook falls under the definition of what a nation state is in terms of sovereignty. However, there is no such thing as nation states. It does not exist. There is nothing by that name from us, okay?
Okay.
Without affiliation, there's even less. So any of the websites out there that say nation states, is probably somebody trying to either sell a widget or build up their importance, or they got an ego problem, or they want to take issue with what we are about. Now, we do not have a group. There is no group. There are several groups, but no main group. There's no leader. And we don't have a database that we keep on anybody. Most of the people are anonymous in that we do not know exactly all of the people involved in this. Now, primarily what this is was a project given to us, and I'll explain the parameters of it in a minute.
There we go.
The process was at first an accident in some ways.
Let's see, Elefon, Winnie, do you think that do you think the Cynthia Abcug thing was about because they seemed to set her up and then the court called her QAnon mom when she had no idea who they were? Yeah, I mean all this stuff I believe is either Fed driven or Fed handled. Like we're gonna get to a point in here where I think that he was really spun up. Now this guy David Wilcox, right? I think that maybe he has something, to do with it in some way. Like maybe he's a key to this whole UFO alien rabbit hole. Because he launches people like Fulford and Drake, right? So maybe he's one of the key players in this, where he's being handled. He's given this platform. He's allowed to exist, and he brings in these other guys who then spin up that have the great storytelling and the ability to sit out there and just lie their asses off, basically, to spin people into these groups. They offer hope. They offer apparent solutions where people don't have to do anything but participate, and then nothing ever comes of it, right? But I think that if you're looking at a key player in this, it's probably Wilcox for launching him. Now he fades into the background once Drake gets going, right? He does fade into the background. You don't hear much about him past that point. He's more steering the Fulford stuff. You don't see too many like he doesn't come on the Drake show. He's not brought back in. He's mentioned by the groups, but he's not ever really in front of it again. He's more like a launching pad for these guys, right? Here we go.
The information from me came over a radio show that I complained about. Somebody took notes and tried it, and it worked. And we'll cover a little of that in just a minute. But the only basic thing that we've done is a notification process that was defined by the basis of lawful notification of a nation state, its existence, and proclamation of that to the world.
And the idea behind doing this is ultimately for sovereignty and freedom.
Exactly.
For actual states in the United States as well as for individuals in the United States. Exactly.
Okay. There are several things that go into this. Now, we're not affiliated with the White Knights, gatekeepers. It's just us. And we, as I said, don't even know everybody involved.
Neither do I. It's funny because another contact I have was demanding that they be put in touch with this group. And I said, look, I only have 2 points of contact with this group. Well, okay, 3, but nobody wants to say anything. I mean, the amount of information I've gotten has just been in little bitty trickles, but nonetheless, if you add up what the trickles are saying,
Rex,
this is an incredible, incredible story. What's getting ready to happen here? And some of the things you were saying on the other radio show about how much has already been moved into position and how much is ready to go right now, it's astonishing. So I want people to hang in there, because right now we're sort of going through some of the bookkeeping that has to be done to build up to this. But once we get to the main thrust of this story, it's absolutely amazing. So please go on.
Yeah, it is an amazing story. In fact, you should have made a movie out of it instead of come on Blog Talk Radio into it. He could have made a lot of money and retired, But the whole idea of mass arrest during this time period, it was flying around like like the whole mass arrest narrative. In fact, it's going to go on the board too. I just got to put it on there. But mass arrest, right? It's one of those rabbit holes. Now, people in the QAnon the movement much later on believed the same thing was going to happen. That's number one, right? We're gonna mark down all the similarities between that, and I actually have a website that we're going to look at where someone else did a similar investigation to what I've done here, but comparing like during the QAnon period, Drake at the same time. So I found that recently, and that's very interesting. We're going to be looking at that. I got tons of stuff to look at, by the way. This is just to get you guys the backstory right here.
Okay. Now, if somebody wants to know about what we're doing and they would like to listen to the radio programs, which are archived, they need to go to Freedom Reigns. That's FREEDOM, just like freedom. Reigns is REIGNS.US. That website has been put up to alleviate us having to repeat ourselves and the extraordinary glut of filling up the mailbox and this sort of thing. So we have time to do what we're needing to do. Now, there is one stipulation in this, and I want to make this absolutely clear. We do not have anything to do with Rap Rusa, which is Tim Turner's group.
Restore America program is what you're talking about.
I bet.
Yeah. If you go on the freedomreigns.us website, there are exposures for that group.
Yeah, I was just going to say the name Tim Turner.
That website is not there anymore. Believe me, I went to it. It's not there. A lot of stuff that was there back in the day is gone now. So it was a little bit hard doing the research, but I found the meat that I needed to find.
It seems to be popping up in my mind because I think someone wrote an expose on him recently, didn't they?
Yes. One of our principals has an extraordinary library of things that out the group as to what the people in charge were doing, or what they intend to do, and the ultimate goal was to literally arbitrarily create their own government and put it in place. Tim Turner has declared himself as a, quote, savior, God, or whatever. All funds collected in the country were to go to him personally, among other things, and it gets worse from there. I'm not.
Okay, so Tim Turner, a little background on him. Tim Turner actually later on ends up challenging Drake to a debate, which never happens. But Tim Turner ran this group called Rusa. Now, Rusa was a group that running a similar kind of thing, but they went as far as to have elections, right? They had elected an entire government, right, that was going to replace the one and that was currently there. Like they were going to take over and they kind of have a shadow government where they a parallel government where they actually made decisions, and then according to them and the Constitution and their sovereign citizen type of approach, they were going to be able to basically just overwrite the government in place with a more constitutional government, and they were going to be the ones running it. So that was, and they were the interim government, and they were going to have free and fair elections after that. So Drake and them butted heads a lot. There was a whole little scene where they were going after each other at one point, but Rusa eventually just kind of fell apart, and Drake went on to do what he was doing, and then, you know, we'll find out the rest of the story here, but that's what he's talking about. There's another group trying to basically run the same kind of grift.
I'm going to get into the details.
Well, wouldn't this also serve the function of owning the opposition, flushing out the people that really want to do something, and making them think? I'm pretty sure
that that's probably what the idea was.
Okay.
There are several of these types of operations. I call it the cabal.
Right, and the only reason why I'm confident that you're not, well, one of the main reasons why I'm confident that you are not one of those is I vetted you out with someone who has impeccably proven trust over years of time. And the degree to which we validated you was vast, and it encompassed over 4 hours of discussion. So I do not consider that you are in that group. I have to keep my thinking cap on as you're talking and remember that one of the epidemics we have on the internet right now is people who think that they're smart just because they disagree with every single thing they hear, and they believe that every single thing they hear must be a lie and must be the opposite of truth. It's very difficult to counteract that because it's a knee-jerk response that people have had due to the extent to which they've been lied to.
So he just described the second veil right there, which he is a major part of. But he just described what I've been talking about as in when you brush off the first veil, right? The establishment narrative, boom. You know, there's some people think that everything else that they hear, the opposite has to be the truth, or that, you know, because everything they heard before was to them a lie. the honest to God truth is that there's a little bit of truth sprinkled everywhere, right? But these guys are way off the mark. We're into the very little truth here going on. They'll name some things to make themselves seem valid, but then they'll just hit you with all kinds of just left turns and right turns that just send you into a dead end.
And I know that you're not lying because, first of all, your words resonate to me as truth, and second of all, I proved that you're telling the truth in a multiplicity of ways in this conversation that we had. So please go on.
I thank you for that. Now, sure. I'm going to tell everybody who listens to this or reads it, and I understand it's going to be transcribed, do your own research and homework, please. Go to Freedom, FREEDOM, Reigns, REIGNS.US. Put it in your search engine, and the website that contacts run through to the group and things that we get, our radio shows, this sort of thing, is all there. If you need further questions, ask the webmaster, and we will see what we can do about supplying an answer to it. Now, basically, this is the prelude to what exactly went on. You want me to go into that now?
Well, actually, let's talk about underwater basket weaving. That might be a little more interesting.
I have trouble holding my breath that long.
No, I mean, this is what we're here for. I've heard from my own sources that there is an absolutely vast amount of incriminating evidence that has been collected that will bring down whatever you want to call them, the New World Order, the Illuminati, etc. You gave me some very specific information about how much of that evidence exists. I don't know whether that was public or not, so I'm not going to say more right now. But you also have given much more specific information publicly than what I've heard privately. And you have fleshed this thing out into a three-dimensional entity that has gone way beyond the point of a speculative what if and into, okay, this is a vast operation. They've been building up to it for a long time. It's extremely clever, and it's extremely intelligent how it's been put together, and it has been calculated for maximum effect and maximum success. And there's a great deal of coordination that will be involved. And I think that probably one of the main things that needs to happen, and why they asked you to come forward, is we really need to help the public know that this is not another silly New World Order martial law takeover, which is what obviously certain disinformation outlets are going to try to spin this as once it happens.
Hold on. I'm going to try something real quick. I'm going to try to just speed this up just a tad. Let me see how this sounds.
But this is, in fact, the saving of the planet. And it's the military, as you were saying, not following unlawful orders and actually living up to their oath of enlistment, which says right in the oath that every soldier has to swear to before God that he will defend and protect the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
That's the United States Constitution.
The Constitution, that's right.
You're right about this. I learned how to. I came up above the radar by accident, but nobody else was putting out any of the basis of the plans involved, nor the level at which this is actually coming from. Consequently, I felt it my patriotic duty to at least lay out some of the basics. Now, some detail I cannot go into and won't go into. If we reach a certain level, I'll say, no, we can't talk about that, and we can go on to another subject. But the basis for this is that I learned how to walk point in Vietnam. So shooting at me does not do a lot of good other than to really upset me for the simple fact that in Vietnam, every time we sat down to eat, we'd get shot at. And scooping your food off the ground ain't no fun, and it's crunchy, among other things. Really does things to me when somebody shoots at me. So that's not something I recommend. Now,
my father voluntarily enlisted in the Army Reserve and served our country in Vietnam, and was actually one of the only journalists over there reporting on, among other things, the rock and roll movement in Woodstock. So he was sort of like one of the Good Morning Vietnam people. And he did get PTSD, and I had kind of a rough childhood because, in a way, it was like having a drill sergeant for a father. And that's sort of the aftermath of
Drake is a
how
Vietnam
has impacted me. I just turned 39 years old, and I have every degree of respect and admiration for your service, and I thank you for serving this country.
You're very welcome. The basis of this is twofold. Learned how to walk point. Now my goodies are above the radar, so I got put out in the open for two reasons. One, I felt it my patriotic duty to try to inform the people as to what is really going on so that they don't have to listen to a bunch of idiots on the internet spouting off whatever kind of imaginary stuff they come up with. People do not need to listen to those bad dreams. That's primarily what they are. Most of it is propaganda, and most people don't know what the word propaganda means. In Spanish, they put it on trash cans because that's where it goes. So everybody needs to kind of get their heads wrapped around this. Now,
I call it fear porn.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I coined that term because I believe that people read this and get addicted to it because it physiologically stimulates you in the same way that sexual material does. It actually makes your heart rate go up, your breathing rate goes up. You get a high off of being terrified. And unfortunately, the powers that were, as I like to call them, have very effectively manipulated that human response so that you have entire outlets of alternative news that, as you just said, have built themselves and have profited extensively off of the undeniably pessimistic view that they keep having. And it's almost impossible to listen to them because they just, when folks like you get on there who have a positive message, you just come against this incredible wall of negativity and fear and just absolute denial that anything good could be coming out of all this stuff that's going on in the world. And I do believe that good people have seen what's going on and they're rising up and they're not going to take it anymore.
Well, that pretty much sums it up. Now, I'm going to reiterate this again. Do your own research and homework. It's not the responsibility of somebody to teach you the basic English language in order to read a website. Most people have the capability. They just refuse to do so and would rather go off in gaga land in front of the TV or play a video game, or they're busy texting their friends and playing with themselves. The ideology is this. We're coming up against the wall. Now, most people, and I don't care who reads this, most people with any kind of common sense at all knows that there are some real serious things going on in the economy. The lack of jobs, the amount of foreclosures, the separation of families because of economic problems. Okay, these are some of the basis of the fear that these people who originated live on. Now, I want to lay the basic of how I found this, and it was an accident, quite honestly. Okay. I've been studying and been involved in freedom movements and all that stuff for years. I've tried in every way, shape, or form to get somebody to get up off the couch, put the beer down, get up off the couch, and do a little something. Go talk to the neighbor, anything. And
yeah, but what if it's really good beer?
Well, yeah, but the problem is you sit on the couch and all you do is you consume the beer and you yak about stuff that doesn't necessarily mean anything. You probably would have a good conversation, but most people are talking, ooh, look at that guy shoot that ball with the hoop or whatever. And I'm going to tell you, that's superficial. That's one of the distractions, just like texting, just like a lot of phone conversation. And the things that do not stay on target. Now, within all this, I've also studied a lot of what's called freedom efforts. This includes freedom philosophers and their type. This man got on a radio show and was spouting off all kind of halfway measures that would primarily and basically get somebody put in jail if they did them. Well, because of my...
You're saying people grabbing their guns and just, oh, now is it? You got to go out there and start shooting?
No, this was even more basic than that. This was like being able to argue a traffic ticket out of court.
Oh, right.
Real simple stuff. Well, the only problem is that you can get up to 6 months for playing games with the judge if you do not know how to do this. And this guy was leaving out critical information that would guarantee almost that you got the 6 months because you were giving the finger to the judge. You don't. There's some things you do not do.
Yeah.
So the guy basically had upset me. Now, the basis that goes...
Well, you don't want to get a Vietnam vet grumpy. That can be a big problem.
Well, yeah, but the deal was this, okay? I needed to know. And everybody had told me you can't do this and you can't do that. Okay, and then you have things like the Texas Freedom School or Freedom School of Texas, I forget which it is, that does have some good information, but it is kind of fragmented. Okay. And some of it is not complete, even though people would like you to think they are. But for $9.95, you can get the book that explains it all just right. Well, I'm not willing to pay for freedom. That's not what it says anywhere about the freedom at all, as far as I can find it. So I decided to do my own research and my own homework. And I had looked at this stuff. I tried to get people up off the couch, and that didn't work. So I didn't have much to do except do the research. I started looking at the basis of law, where it comes from. I'm talking about way back in the woods of history. Some of the places I went required me to have anything that I was intending to copy or borrow a copy of electronically approved before they would release it. Okay, some of this stuff is not for consumption by the general public, and they make sure of that. Well, after 2.5 years, I figured out pretty much basically what everything said, how it was.
Can an ordinary civilian gain access to these documents, or was this because you had some sort of classified access?
No, anybody that it depends on whether or not you're as nasty as a junkyard dog and tenacious as a bulldog and refuse to take no for an answer, and you bother somebody until they decide to allow you to do something simply because they don't want to fool with you anymore.
I gotcha.
That basically does research, and it covers all of it. Those people who won't listen eventually do when you get a hold of them every day. When you just send them 50 emails a day, one every minute or something, it bugs them enough. It's like mom. When you used to want to get something from mom, if you bug her enough, she'll say, "Go ahead and do it, leave me alone." And that works. Okay. So the song, I believe, was You Get Your Way by Insisting. Okay. I insisted, so I got the information. I studied this over about 2.5 years, and believe me, it is intricate. It is extraordinary in terms of what it told me was a simplistic, basic way to step outside of the normal controls of what people consider as laws. You have limitations, supposedly, between a citizen of one country and a citizen of another. Those two legally are supposedly separated. That's not quite true. Little things of that nature were what I was after to learn. So I studied this stuff for about 2.5 years, and I finally took a break from it because my head was beginning to hurt. And I decided to, listen to a little radio and play a little card, listen to a little internet radio and play a little cards on the machine. And lo and behold, here comes this friggin' idiot. He's one of these freedom philosophers. And this is somebody that thinks they know what they're doing. When they were missing several critical points, they will get your butt put in jail. But they want you to try it. I've done this. Yeah, right.
This is the guy that would teach you how to beat a traffic ticket, but you could go to jail for 6 months?
Yeah, that sort of thing. Real simple. Okay. And if you go about it correctly, it works fine. Okay. But if you don't, you end up actually opposing the judge.
Right.
And that's a big no-no. What you do is you allow the law to oppose the judge. Then the judge has to rule in a succinct manner. Plus, you're not standing in a landmine field. That is not a nice place to stand. Believe me, I've been in one. So this thing gets on there and decides to mouth off about the stuff. And all he did was almost instantly make me mad. So I snatched the phone and I called in and I said, "Hey." And he said, "Hi." And I said, "You might be according to what you just put out, because most of that belongs in the toilet because you're going to get people in trouble." "What do you mean?" I said, "Your information is not total. It's not complete. And you're going to get people in trouble by espousing this, by saying that, if you do this, you can get away. You can tell the judge what to do." "Well, no, that ain't part of this. And you know it. If you don't, I'm giving you a lot more credit than you deserve. So why don't you shut up and listen?" Well, about this time, the host of the show comes on and says, "Hey, come on now, you're going to have to watch it." And I said, "Hey, look, did you realize that you can be held liable if somebody gets in trouble for what this guy's saying on your show?" "Really?" I said, "Yeah. Now, you want me to clear this mess up?" "Yes." So then the guy comes back with this sovereignty routine. And I got upset for the second time and told him to shut up and listen. And maybe he would learn something, that he might want to learn how to read at the same time. What I basically did was I laid out the primary basis for what is required in order to declare any area. And if you've got an area somewhere in the middle of Timbuktu land, but it's yours, and it's registered in terms of the boundaries, basically, or you have at least real definitive markings so you can tell where it is and what it is and how big it is, you can declare that area sovereign. And by doing so, you actually create your own nation state.
Well, if I declared my toilet a sovereign zone, then I could drop waste into it and be pretty much like the government.
Well, except that as long as it stays on within your area, yes. Now, by that I mean you should declare the whole yard and use a finger system if you're going to do something of that nature, simply so that you're protected legally.
Right on.
But I'm saying there's little bits of information, and it can get squirrely, and it's a lot of fun to deal with. But so I laid this process out. Basically, what we did, and the way the process worked, happened, as I said, by accident. While I'm telling this guy how this works, somebody in the great state of Pennsylvania took notes.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't have any idea anybody would even be listening other than to shut this turkey up that didn't know what he was talking about.
Right. So obviously a state itself could be a sovereign zone or declared as such, and those who govern the state could get wind of what you've figured out from your extensive research and implement that research.
Yes.
Wow. Awesome.
So basically, that's what happened in Pennsylvania. The person that took the notes was really knowledgeable in the real sovereign legalities and lawfulness, and took that knowledge in combination with what I had put together, got with some other people, and they said, well, yeah, let's see what happens. And so they put together a process of notification, and they sent it off to the International Court of The Hague.
Oh, my God.
And this is the civilian division, as I understand it, or civil division. And they, of course, sent a reply back when they received it that they had received that package. The rest of it was a receipt of the intent of the package. They had made a copy of what they had sent, certified copy of the original, that sort of thing. Now, their package, then they're sitting on a package there. The Hague's got one in their records.
Right. So now you have a complete paper trail.
Exactly. Now, the crux of this
might be sort of like a subpoena, where the simple fact that the Hague accepted the paperwork, by definition, locks them into some sort of binding arrangement.
No.
Oh, okay.
No. This is exactly and only a notification process. I want to make that perfectly clear. Okay. What happens through receipt of the paperwork is that it goes into the Hague record. And in that manner, the notification then is a publication, like you'd use in a newspaper to advertise, I'm not responsible for my debts any further. Well, this thing says, we are now a sovereign nation state.
Wow.
And it's very similar to that, only this is an international newspaper, in effect. We have basically, by sending one little pack like that, created a sovereign, independent nation state.
Wow.
Okay, so as soon as they got receipt that this thing had been delivered, they got a call from a higher up in the Pentagon. And that person says, I understand you guys have been doing some notification internationally. Yes. I understand that you seem to find this process as being rather simple. Yes. The next thing was, do you think you can replicate or reproduce that sucker? And the person went, I don't know. And what you got right then was, I have no idea, quite simply. We can see what's available. We can try and find out. The person at the Pentagon, and I'm not going to say there's a guy, because I'm not going to put gender on it, simply that, it could be a female.
Drake.
Man, the people at the Pentagon said, go for it. Let's see what happens. They said, okay, we'll give it a shot. Now, these people are involved in freedom just like I was. They wanted to be able to do something that was real, proactive, didn't get anybody in trouble, and yet was something that could be also used in other ways. Okay, they didn't know at the time what that little simplistic package for that one state did, and didn't find out until after they started researching it.
What's the time window we're talking about right now?
In terms of when
this all happened?
This happened started in about October of last year.
Okay.
Which is not an exact date. As of November, we decided that we were going to move on this. I got involved because I knew one of the people that had been involved with these people before anyway, and was requested, hey, would you like to be involved in this? And I said, sounds good to me. It's better than anything else I've seen. And then when they hit me with the idea of what it contained, I said, no, wait a minute. I was on a radio show and I explained to them what happened, and they said, really? Okay, so here you go. You got somebody getting upset because some idiot gets on a radio show. He tells them what they can do with themselves and how to do it for real, instead of playing games with things. Somebody takes notes, they do it, and all of a sudden, officials from the government in the military are interested. Can you do it again? And along with that, there's a combination of other people involved with their own shows at different times during the week. And these people, I met those people and got involved sort of indirectly with them. The whole thing.
Right. I was going to say, it would seem that each state is going to have squirrely barriers to go through, different from Pennsylvania, in order to get this all off the ground.
Well, it depends on whether or not you're part of the original 13 colonies, and or whether or not your constitution is de jure, which is lawful by common law, or de facto, which is the corporate government. There's a difference.
Okay, gotcha.
I hate those keywords simply because when people hear it, they turn the friggin' TV off. They don't want to hear that. Well, I'm sorry, but you do need to pay attention to the difference.
Right.
And anyway, so we start booking with this. Okay, we'll take the project and we'll run with it. were able to receive notice on about the end of February of this year that the package, the whole package of a majority of the states had been received by The Hague. In other words, each little nation state package went into a big box, and the big box was delivered to The Hague, and we got notification of the entire package. Now,
let me ask you this.
Yes.
If the military, in its oath to defend the Constitution of the United States against domestic enemies, gets word of a civilian-based initiative which demonstrates that the states wish to have their sovereignty returned to them, doesn't that legally give them the right to move forward on this and enforce the will of the majority of the states?
Well, that's part of the process I'm coming to.
Okay, great.
This is not just a simplistic process of sending a newspaper clipping overseas.
Oh, I get that.
Received it. It got to where it was going. So the basic premise of a nation state is this. What most people used was either their own constitution or they wrote one. It had to agree with the 1787 United States Constitution to include the 13th, and I mean the original 13th Amendment, where certain people are not allowed to hold foreign offices here in the States. The Bill of Rights, the Articles of Confederation, and that real cool document called the Declaration of Independence. By declaring our sovereignty and our disengagement, or our effort to remove ourselves being individual states, from the corporate United States government, what this did was this rebirthed the Declaration of Independence, which states on page 2 that when the government.
You can see here, man, as they're going along, he's getting into the minutia and some detail here, right? But it's building up the idea that everything they're doing is legitimate, and that that through this they're going to be able to legitimize the actions that he will then later be leading people down these rabbit holes in his weekly speeches that again go for like 3 hours. His weekly talks where he goes over the plan, updates everybody on what's going on, and he gets into really the ins and outs of what's going on. So he goes on for a while here. I don't want to kind of like it can drain on for a while. I'm going to kind of skip ahead a little bit, just because he's getting into some of the details and see if he gets a little bit more into some of the other details later on. Now, this is the initial launch, right? So this is all like trying to be as legitimate as possible. He's using these, Constitution, trying to describe all these things that sound good, right? If you don't really, for most people, don't really know how it works, you think that this old Vietnam vet, he's done a lot of research, he's getting some legitimate, he's seeming legitimate because he's on this show at the time. David Wilcox, was bigger and less debunked than he is today, and so he's getting a lot of credibility here. He's getting some clout, and so he's going to try to build this up as much as he can. As time went on, the story got more and more elaborate. Is he CIA? I don't think so. Like I think with these guys that are the faces, right? I think a lot of these guys are. I mean, Wilcox, I don't know. He might be. But as far as this goes, they're like low level, kind of just like the faces, right? And with people like Drake, right? He I don't think that he is because of where he's at today, but maybe handled, right? Maybe just okay, we got this nutty guy. He's got some PTSD and some other issues from his service in Nam. We're gonna go into some of that later on about like what happened to him after that. This guy named Albert Webry that I actually tried to contact and get some statements out of. He didn't respond to me, and then I found his website, and I'm gonna show it to you. I mean, his YouTube page, and I found out probably why he didn't respond to me. He had been part of this group at one time, and then parted ways with Drake over some disagreements, perhaps in philosophy. Who knows? He did interview Drake at one point, and I do have a little bit of that we can listen to. But when I saw his final goodbye to Drake, he basically was saying that Drake, during his time, he had made allusions that during his time in Vietnam, he had tortured POWs, and that somehow, I don't know if this was just like your basic factions turning against each other and then trolling each other or making up stuff about each other, but that he had tortured POWs, right? So that would be a war crime. And so this guy said, well, because of my status, I can no longer be associated with Drake. But this guy had believed him, and he kind of comes into the UFO alien stuff here in a little bit. And that's when it really gets good. Now he's not going to talk about that in this interview. Like in this interview, he is he's trying to just legitimize himself. This is his coming out party, if you will. So let's skip ahead here a little bit to about the 1 hour mark, and let's see if we get a little bit of change in direction. I don't remember this interview all that well. I did listen to some of it, but I didn't get a chance to listen to all of it. So we're gonna kind of fish through this a little bit and see if we can get some of the more interesting parts out, and then we're gonna move on to the history, and we're gonna get into where he's at today eventually. So you're going to see the full-on transition. And you see his picture right here, right? He looks like this rough and tough old militiaman. And basically he said this was his disguise he would wear to VFW meetings or something like that. So it's kind of cool. Now here's a little bit of knowledge for you guys. This picture right here, okay? At this time, I have the picture up for you, right? At this time, nobody knew what Drake looked like. Nobody did, right? It was people weren't resourceful. They didn't have anything like that. I found him. I was the one who found his picture, and I was the one who released it. So basically, I was the first person to put a picture of Drake out there for the world to see. And so that video that I put out doing that, right, is that website was taken down because of 3 strikes a long time ago. It was like my first channel that I used. Again, I told you about that. So I used it as basically to propagate videos for the Ron Paul movement, right? So I put a lot of Ron Paul videos out there. We actually, when Liberty Unleashed was on, I think we watched some of my old videos that night that were on that channel. So I put out this exact picture of Drake. I was the first one to do it, and that was one of the things I did to kind of like put a face on the voice, right, for that group that was out there at the time believing this stuff, and which brought legitimacy to what I was doing. So interesting story there. Yes, you're talking to the guy. You're listening to the guy who actually put Drake's face out there for the very first time way back in the day. Yeah. So this, Wilcox and all that, they didn't put it. His face wasn't out there. It was like maybe towards that summer. It was that summer. So this is again April, May, June, July. It's probably around July that I put his face out there. And then at this time he had militia people on his show. He had people from Canada on his show that were like gamers. In fact, one of the ladies that was on his show, hey, what's up, King Refuge? How you doing, man? One of the ladies that was on the show is called the Dragon Lady, and if you look around, you might see her. You might see her in the Ricada chat from time to time, or I don't know if I saw her in the Ricada chat or Viva chat or something like that. I think it was in Viva's chat actually. Let me say Viva because Viva's Canadian, and she was a Canadian gamer, and she had this weird accent. That's because of her name, Dragon Lady. I thought she was Asian. And I was like, where did this lady come from out of the blue? She talked like this. She was talking like this the whole time, But someone told me that's actually a Canadian accent from a certain part of Canada. I had no idea. It sounded, I want to say Oriental Chinese. It sounded Asian to me, right? So I actually called in to Drake's show one time to ask who this person was and how they had suddenly had appeared onto the scene. It was kind of just to draw a question to who it was. She didn't last much longer after that. But yes, he had a whole cast of characters around him when he was on his show. It was kind of like, this panel, if you will, but Drake was the star. And you didn't get to see their faces. All you could do is hear their voices because it was Block Talk Radio. They didn't have any video. It was just radio, right? Yeah, reminds you of the Seinfeld episode. Oh, man. But anyways, let's see what's going on here at the hour mark. And we'll keep fishing through this. We're not going to listen to the entire thing straight through. However, if you want to, I'm going to put the link out there for anybody who really wants to go out there and listen to the whole thing. There you go. All right.
Their lives to defend and protect the Constitution and the people.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're not out there to enhance the lifestyles and comfort of the rich and famous, or those who don't wish to be famous, but who are oligarchs who basically are living off of everyone else.
Yes.
That's not what they did it for. And everybody, all you have to do is watch a few of these Illuminati propaganda films, to realize that if you do work for these people, they will stab you in the back almost as a law of nature. So anybody who thinks that working with them is a good move, wait until what happens when you're no longer useful and see how quickly they'll torture and kill you and everyone you care about.
Well,
nobody is immune.
It sounds really legitimate,
it's
right?
even,
but they're trying to sell
actually
this.
worse than that.
Patriot.
The onion that makes up what we're talking about has basically 4 levels to it. The outer level was notified at the same day that our package landed in the international court that they were no longer under their protection. Over a period of a few months, there's been several thousand resignations, house arrests. There's been tons of banks closed or closed for a couple of days and reopened. You name it. Now, this is not just bankers. This is also financiers, your exchange people.
Oh, yeah.
Everything.
I cover it on my website. 358 resignations documented by somebody going under the anonymous name American Kabuki. And there's a link for every single one of them in their own chronological order. And this includes on February 29th, the resignation of James Murdoch, Rupert Murdoch's son, from the executive chairman position of News International Corporation, which is Fox.
Yeah, that's basically called a protection move. He was not. It wasn't a question of his protection as much as it was in terms of them protecting him, as much as it was his own protection, because he didn't have that much to do in terms of the illegalities that Dad pulled.
Right.
So he's not all that bad one way or the other in comparison to some of them.
People had no way to verify
to get to the deeper grain of what you're saying, if I'm hearing you correctly, I'm getting that you had this package delivered to The Hague, and that was the critical moment in which those on the inside were aware that these mass arrests that have been planned ever since the 5-inch document you saw in 1979 could actually move forward by the will of the civilians in terms of common law going back to the Code of Hammurabi and 11,000-year-old documents.
Exactly.
Okay, great.
What this did was, when they received it and it got past their agents who work at The Hague, what it did was they knew that it had arrived because that person was made aware. There was nothing they could do about it. So consequently, their protection evaporated. This is like steam on a hot highway, and the sun comes out and poof, it's gone. Okay, well, there's thousands of resignations in Europe to date. Now, in 1 week, and I'm talking last week, there was 450 resignations, retirements, and this stuff, and 200 arrests.
That's a staggering number.
That's 650 people involved in finance. Now, here's the difference. Those people under house arrest or who have been taken into custody or who retired and are staying at home are considered not very important one way or the other. They were primarily figureheads and not much more.
Right.
The difference is those who were arrested and those who are being arrested and those who are going to be arrested, that's the second layer of the onion.
This is why we're not seeing a lot of newspaper and website articles about this, because there's no accountability of these people getting arrested in the outside world because they don't have a public position.
Well, not only that, but the mainstream media is controlled by them.
Explain it away.
Exactly.
Therefore, you're not going to hear this.
Yeah, and I documented that extensively in my investigation, Financial Tyranny. It goes back to Operation Mockingbird and traceable information regarding the Masonic Order and guys who in 1826 were saying, yeah, we own the press and we own the judiciary and we own the police and we own the government and F you if you don't like it.
Yeah, basically there's nothing you can do about it. People have alluded to the fact that there's something out there everybody's afraid of in terms of industrialists, people of power. This is basically what they were afraid of.
That's Woodrow Wilson's quote in his book, The New Freedom. Yes, very important quote.
Exactly. Now, the thing is that what people didn't realize was the limitation of, you mentioned the G5, I'm going to say the G20.
Okay.
And the reason I say the G20 is that some of these nations have not quite come to the light yet that they got a real serious.
Again, the thing that's unique about these guys is they're selling hope in a veil that was mostly selling fear, and but this all at the time when people were hearing this, they're getting excited about this. They're like, oh, finally somebody's doing something about all the stuff we know that's wrong. Someone's finally stepping up. This is the big miracle we've been praying for, right? It's they're doing it with a very American flag waving type of a scene. They're doing it what seems like very legitimately through the courts and through the military and people that are well trained and well informed, and they're hitting all the right buttons for people in the second veil just to salivate over.
serious problem or how serious it is, and are not fully under the control or fully beholden to or involved with the G5. So they're kind of on the edge, and they can go either way. And the basis of this is very simple. Several things have happened. Number one, we convinced enough people to abide by documentation done the correct way, and we submitted it to The Hague in terms of a majority of states, which basically set a precedent for being free and for military civilian action. The military backs us up by way of federal marshals who contact local law enforcement, and local law enforcement actually makes the arrests. I'm sorry, just so that people understand, are federal marshals members of the Army National Guard or the Air Force, or what are federal marshals? Federal marshals are federal law enforcement officers, basically. Now, okay. The definition, though, is by present authority, which puts them in the trick bag of having to follow the edict of what we've done in terms of the will of the people to go along with the military plan. If you wanted to meet a federal marshal, what offices would you go to? I mean, are they FBI? Are they CIA? Are they Homeland Security? They're on their own. Okay. That's the nice thing about a federal marshal. He's relatively independent of most things. Okay. There are some that say I'm in charge of them, and I will get a strong argument that only depends on the situation. In some situations, a citizen is in charge of the FBI or the CIA, depending on the situation.
What situations?
Basically, a federal marshal is between. He is a federal employee of the current power. Okay. Okay, so the notification process, what it did was it authorizes the military to contact the federal marshals, to contact the local authorities, to actually take the actions of arrest. Now, okay, this might piss some people off, but I really want to clear this up. Do these marshals exist in different offices? I mean, how would you find one? What kind of offices would they be employed by? Well, National Security Administration. Would probably be the end office if you wanted to really look them up in that relationship. Okay. Because they are primarily tasked in such a way that a federal marshal can go across a border when the border is common to the country he comes from. So you could go from, say, Arizona or New Mexico into Mexico if need be, and you would have law enforcement authority there. Would these marshals potentially be employed in a police station? Would they be at the police station? No,
most people don't know that, Jacob.
Federal marshals' offices. There's a variety of them. Okay. They have a combination of different duties. I don't mean to sound like an idiot. I'm cautious to make sure that people don't think that you invented the term federal marshal and that it's just some guy on the internet reading websites and, oh yeah, I'm a marshal and here's a little badge that I made. Yeah, I bought one of those yesterday down at the dollar store. I understand what you're saying. This is real. These guys are federally employed. Well, they're 80-some, 90% of them, give or take, are going to go AWOL. And they're taking their equipment with them and going home. Now, 90%? Well, somewhere between 80 and 90% are saying, no, that ain't happening. We're not going to go after somebody's grandma with a combat weapon. That's stupid. Okay? That's ridiculous. Well, what you have to remember is that there's a difference between lawful and unlawful orders or directives. The unlawful order or directive will tell you to go against what you know to be the truth according to the Constitution. Posse Comitatus says that you are not a police force, therefore you're not to go in and extract people from houses. That ain't cool, and it's not to happen. You will receive counter orders possibly that tell you, no, forget that, and arrest that officer. That's liable to happen if somebody ordered it. So the lawful order is going to be something that is going to be an operation that can be carried out lawfully. Now, what if some of these guys, some of the things I've heard are that orders. They're basically saying now that, oh, well, the U.S. government is under the jurisdiction of the United Nations or NATO, and what if they tried to make the soldier have a NATO badge that he's operating under? Okay. Is that a lawful order? Well, okay. That gets into the issue of being in uniform. You are not allowed to carry out your service duties when you're out of uniform. You take your shirt off and leave it off and go to formation in a t-shirt, and you'll find out how that feels.
Bunny Ranch hadn't happened yet, dude.
Goes to the fact that you are in the United States military. And I don't care which branch it is, doesn't matter. You have to be in uniform. The stars and bars above any other service.
Do you remember this guy?
To include your insignia badge, and that includes the United Nations and NATO. Now, The problem is that we made agreements in 1933 and 1945, dealing primarily, started with the North American Treaty Organization known as NATO, also dealing with the United Nations, where basically
wasn't it like in the fall
group known as the United Nations and or NATO, or an authorized group of nations that are our allies, can request or require our presence militarily, and we are required to comply.
Okay.
The reason for this is that our representatives could rescind this and don't have the guts to do so. Basically that and that alone. When they do so, then you come out from under it. Now, there's some other things in this process people are not aware of, and that is that our documents supersede anything past the date of the 13th Amendment. And what it does is, at the point of action, all of the executive orders and all the horse hockey and other garbage that has been perpetrated upon the people illegally after the point of the 13th Amendment, that's 1812. Remember that date and think about what's going on since then. Anything that disagrees with the Constitution, first of all, is null and void of any legal or lawful impact. Further, anything that disagrees with the Constitution, basically, is to be stricken if it is a law, rule, or regulation. So,
how well did I was just following orders hold up at the Nuremberg trials?
It didn't. Everybody that did that got convicted. This is not considered a plausible defense, simply because you know the difference between torturing somebody and not. The field manual states that you're not to engage civilians. That means you're not supposed to step on them, etc. All of this has been covered. Now, I'm going to give you an example from Vietnam.
Oh, don't take anything. Don't take anything.
There was not too much done with that.
That's not what this is about. Don't take anything.
The problem was that several people came up with that.
It's about Jacob. This is about the fact that he fooled a ton of people into believing that there was some kind of plan, right? That there's a plan involved. Like QAnon, down the road, he's delivering this plan on behalf of the powers that be, right? And that's why we call him Original Q, right? He had the plan. It was about mass arrest. It was about taking back the government, read the people, all that stuff, man. It was like. The only thing that QAnon, the differences between him and QAnon of today is that eventually, not at this point, but eventually the aliens got involved, where he was involved in the communication with the extraterrestrial race. We're gonna get to that in a minute, but and that QAnon took on the idea that it was coming from the president, right? And that that it was done on the internet versus Blog Talk Radio. There's some other differences there, but yeah, the militia was involved in both cases, in some level, right? And we thought after this guy that everybody would have wised up and never fallen for it again, but sure enough, they did. So that's why we're going back over this, especially now with elections coming up and the possible resurgence of people like that. Let's see, what you got here. And then in 2004, when they had they raided the ranch, 2016 when they shot and killed Finicum, but they then released the drone footage to McConnell to upload his Facebook the same night. Okay, but do you remember Drake, dude, from back in the day? Do you remember him? I'm trying to find anybody besides myself that remembers this guy. Some people do. I know, Jacob. It's easy to find, but Drake is a smooth talking common man. He's not trying to be accurate. He's just trying to be convincing, right? I'll give it I hate stupid people rant. You've heard it before. I know. Never believe anyone who claims there's a plan. Right. And this is the first guy that came out to say there was a plan. That's why he's the Original Q. Yeah, that's what it is. Chat gone wild. Yeah, get in here. Let's raise some hell. Yeah, we're blowing through this interview here. But yeah, I'm hoping that he gets into the red light, green light stuff in this interview. I can't remember if he does, but that might have been down the road. The problem is a lot of his all of his blog talk radios from back in the day are gone. I can't find them. If anybody can find any of his blog talk radios from like 2012, man, help me out, because I looked. I know they used to be out there, but then all of a sudden they were taken down. Now he still has a blog talk radio channel, but it's more recent, right? So I will be showing that later in the show, along with a lot of other stuff and a lot of other stuff that was happened after the fact here. And we will get into his alien stuff and where he is today and what he's doing, because he's still out there. He's still doing a show. He just doesn't have thousands and thousands and thousands of people hanging on his every word anymore. It's basically like he gets a very low volume of people coming to his live streams, and he's a super soldier now. He's one of these super soldiers that can go through dimensions and go into different planets and blow it up his mind. It's really hilarious. We're gonna get to that. I want to make sure I get through this. I think we're getting the gist of it. I'm just about ready to stop this one and move on. Let's give it a few more minutes and just kind of jump ahead and see if we can get a few more tidbits out of this. And we'll listen to the conclusion and we'll get out of this one.
Do so and have it done. The other part is they don't have the cash on hand, the finances, to pay the bad printed lately to probably sink something. I don't know the volume of the money that's been printed, but I do know that as a world reserve currency, there's a large load of dollars out there.
Right.
The number of dollars in relation to this new currency is such that a revaluation or refunding of or exchange of that number of dollars for this agreed to currency supposedly puts us in a position of a basic one-to-one type of ratio of exchange for the little guy. It does not include the big guys, from what I understand. I heard today that J.P. Morgan, Citi, and Bank of America were just about to collapse.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I don't know how true that is. We'll find out in the next few days.
Well, I put up something on my website right literally before I called you, and then as soon as I'm done with this interview, we're going to process it and get it up in that article.
Okay.
Regarding the public admission by J.P. Morgan that they are divorcing the Vatican, saying that the Vatican Bank was using J.P. Morgan bank accounts to pass funds through as sort of like just a very temporary holding facility. The funds didn't stay in J.P. Morgan. They just were shooting through it.
Yeah.
And they have completely closed that door, and it will be fully closed as of March 30th, 2012. And they only made the announcement on March 19th, 2012.
I don't know if it
That's
was
a
even
very, very interesting thing when you understand that these are two warring factions that used to be all working together.
Well, you're gonna have that kind of separation. Now, I'm not going to say that J.P. Morgan Chase is as innocent as they like to make themselves out to be.
Sure.
Then you want to take it a step further. I'm going to suggest that it may be a reversal of fortune in terms of you do got the Rothschilds and Rockefellers as two basic principles. If you can add minor people, they call a lot of the shots, such as Bush and et cetera. The thing that I'm seeing is that you have a separation between the United States and the European Union simply for the idea of preservation. Now, I was told that from a couple of different people that I've listened to that know what's going on, that the European Union is very close to collapse in terms of the euro. As the euro goes, so goes the dollar in terms of our economy. Now, the other part of this is that you got about a 2-week span before it starts hitting here. The other part of what our plan entails is finance. There are old funds held by patriotic entities here in this country who have enough money or valued assets, however you want to look at that, to pay our national debt some 4 times over. Now, that would be sufficient funding to take care of pretty much anybody's needs for quite some time. Now, this is not one of the collateral accounts. This is private accounting. Wow. That's a big difference than what a lot of people have been talking about, to include Benjamin Fulford. And I respect that man, highly. Okay, there's also been a couple of splits that are coming up in some of these secret organizations that are extraordinarily large and directly financial. And you're dealing with extraordinary amounts of money or valuation again. So you're going to have a bunch of things running around loose that should take care of things for, you want a golden age? Think about not having to use gas anymore and not having to pay taxes. Think about not having to worry
property
about
tax, no property tax.
Having food to eat. They do have, and I can tell you this from personal experience.
He's up in West Virginia.
Sci-fi
his address.
Series called Star Trek.
I was wondering.
And Gene Roddenberry was connected to some people who were basically sort of foretelling future events. Some of the things that you saw in there, to include transporters, which are referred to today as Stargates, this stuff's real. It's been being used for years. The idea of a food replicator has been around for a long time.
There we go.
But they've also been in use for a long time. So there's a lot of this. You're talking about extraordinary, major, and fantastic changes. You want a golden age? How about if somebody's hungry or you're thirsty, you go punch, it shows you a picture and it says drink, and you punch that and it says, what flavor do you like? Bingo, you got something to drink. Or if you want, a steak, it makes it out of matter. You don't have to slice up cows anymore. So
yeah, I mean, you just mentioned something that I have heard and I've never gone public with. I refer to that technology as a materializer. I think it's probably a better sounding word. The classified term I heard is called a constructor.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And I've heard that those are very real, and it also works with your mind. So it's not like you speak the command.
Yeah.
It's that you literally visualize what you want to eat, and it will then scan and do the best possible job that it can. And this includes the fact that the food cleans your mouth as you eat it, and it actually turns into pure nutrition as you digest it.
Well, now you want to take this a step further.
Ever.
There was something else in that 25th century, 2500 AD sci-fi series, and that was that there is
the food. It cleans your mouth as you eat it, and then turns into pure nutrition as you swallow it. It's magic food.
An economy running. Everybody's running around doing stuff. People are getting food and etc. They got clothes, place to live. And you might note one thing, and this is something that wasn't taken into consideration in terms of getting into details. But it was a moneyless society.
That's right.
Now, a lot of
somebody's in 10 forward and they want a drink. They're not plunking down coins to get it.
Exactly. Nope. And that extraordinary change, as I understand, is down the road after we complete a whole bunch of this stuff. But the basis for this is that the United States has been looked at as the bastion of freedom. And the crux of that relies upon our founding documents, the original intent of how things were structured, and the idea that the people, not somebody else, is in charge. Like I said, the military will install certain people that they have in mind that they know can do certain jobs for a temporary period of time and under limited powers.
So this means that the bills will be paid, the lights will stay on, and there will be continuity of the goods and services that people need for their basic livelihood.
As much as possible. There's going to be some interruptions. It's just a given. That's going to happen. But it shouldn't be anything extraordinary. It's not going to be the end of the world. It's not going to be martial law. And, the whole thing is not going to go in the toilet.
Because like back in 2012, everybody's worried about martial law coming in, right? They're going to bring in the martial law. They're going to force the chips in our hands. They're going to make us bow down and kneel down to the New World Order. That was the fear of the day. James, you remember that stuff, right, man? You remember this, the 2012 era. You were back on the internet in that day. I know you were. And you remember all this stuff going on.
Briefly loop back to my previous question, since we have a huge international audience. We have a massive audience in Australia, a massive audience in Europe. Do you personally, because I have my own intuition and intel on this, but do you personally have knowledge of there being a coordination in which the mass arrests in the United States will correlate with similar police actions in other countries as well?
That can happen, but it's not absolutely necessary. And the reason for that is that when you close the borders, you don't lose anybody that way. And if you take down portions of it at differing times, it's not going to make that much difference. Now, it would be nice and probably to some extent simpler to do it all at once, but you have to realize the extraordinary amount of tactical problems that you come across, the manpower involved, and whether or not, if you look at this, we've got a pretty massive job here, okay? Maybe somebody else might, in another country, need some assistance from us in order to accomplish the same goal. Or we may need assistance from people outside. It could be Interpol, it could be anybody.
Right, Drake, and I also want to make it clear that the media, most of the world's media that is propaganda-based is all based from American corporations, which are now syndicated throughout television networks all over the planet. And so, therefore, when you break the back of the Leviathan in this country, we're already seeing right now much more truth being told in the British press and in the news media of many other countries. And I would bet dollars to donuts that once this mass uprising occurs in the U.S., the people are going to realize the lies that have been told. And those in other countries who have been part of the problem, who probably will be named when this happens, are going to have to scoop very quickly and find themselves a very, very distant hiding place, because they're not going to be able to operate publicly. They're not going to be able to stay in their homes because people are going to be really pissed.
Yeah, that's a very optimistic thought right there. We know better now, right? What happens is when there's a mass uprising, they just spin it on the media and everybody gets more and more pissed off. It's like they don't, it's almost like they're encouraging people to do something here, isn't it?
And they find out what's been done to them.
That's part of it, but what you have to remember is that there's two ways that these people operate. One is covert, or under the covers, outside, that sort of thing, and one is out in the open. The European portion of this has been more out in the open.
It's either covert.
I don't know if everybody knows it or not, but there's a large load of resignations, retirements, and arrests. And I thought it was interesting to find out from one source that supposedly the people here are running for cover too. The only problem is I hadn't heard anything about it. So I did a little investigation of my own and asked a couple of people I know personally. And lo and behold, what's happening is that they're not resigning.
Yep.
And they're not surrendering. What they're doing is they are taking permanent foreign vacations. They're just simply walking out, collecting the family with a bag full of money, and going. Now, the problem with that is that the agreements that I understand that are in place is that we are allowed to go get them wherever they go. And shame on anybody that's in the way. Now, I do not know of a country on the planet who could withstand the full force of the United States military, especially when you got the whole civilian population screaming for blood. So, yeah, there's going to be, I would imagine there's going to be hangings. You're going to have people jumping out of windows here and there. You probably have some gunfights. I do not want to see the riotous lynch mob attitude from anybody. The idea of tearing up your neighborhood because somebody told you
nobody
that you were
nobody
black
does
is ludicrous and stupid. You've got people in the neighborhood who live there for years. They make a living out of that store, and you're going to screw it up for them? That's real intelligent. I wonder what you're going to do with the people that normally would work there. I mean, you're screwing the whole thing up. So the idea is to keep cool, calm, and collected because everything will be sorted out over a period of time. And I do mean everything. The finance, the idea of the police state is not going to exist as it does now. Common law doesn't allow for that. This is going to be the new basis. This is going to be the new responsibility ideology. Now, if you're not going to be responsible, somebody's liable to snatch you up and confine you or something, or put you to work someplace, possibly doing something or being someplace you don't want to be or doing something you don't like. Cleaning outhouses ain't cool. So, it's going to be reoriented to the old-fashioned basis in the 50s. Some things you didn't do because you knew mom and dad would kill you if you did it, and you knew that it wasn't right anyway. So you didn't do it, but you could go out and scream, holler, jump, run, roll in the grass, ride your bike at 5,000 miles an hour, whatever you wanted to do, and you didn't get in trouble for it. Okay, the kids today don't get to do that because of the load of information, and it's mostly not correct, that's being put out by the education system. That they got to learn something that doesn't fit with them. It disagrees with the idea of memorizing certain things because it's false. Lies do not fit well within the brain, period. And these people have changed the history books and a whole bunch of other stuff and lie to you terribly. And this is why the stuff don't go in your head well. Your brain is made by God, not by man. God knows the difference between right and wrong, and consequently, so do you. It's a little voice, it's conscience tells you what's, do this, don't do that. Okay, real simply, the lies don't fit. That's why they're so hard to cram in your head. And
thankfully, the founding fathers, I learned this from my own legal research, put provisions in the United States Constitution that stipulate that conscience supersedes the written law. In other words, if conscience is very clear about something, then what's written cannot go against that. And that's in the Constitution. It's not something most people talk about, but it's definitely in there.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely in there.
But the premise of what I'm saying is the reason that the education is so difficult, the reason it's so hard to learn stuff is simply because it ain't right.
Yes.
It's like eating something that's going to upset your stomach. Now, you get a steady diet of that, and you're going to have some problems. And this is basically what the difference between real education and what they're giving out now.
Where is
it? This is why everybody's having such a problem. You don't need to do all of what's being done in terms of information overload in order to accomplish the goals that we have set before us. You're going to have to be smarter than you think you are, and that comes with the territory. But you can, and I have found this to be true, anybody who really decides they're going to do it, there's not too much that a person can't do. So, the education system's changing, the tax system's changing, the money system's changing, the government's going to flip itself on its head. These are not little simple changes. And everybody needs to pay attention to that fact and realize that there is, it's serious and it's already on its way, and there's nothing nobody can do to stop it.
Yep,
the United States can't pay its debt, therefore the currency is going in the toilet, and it's going to be replaced with something of equitable value rather than a debt instrument, which is what you have now in the way of money. That's a given. You have to do that. There's going to be barter and trade. There's a lot of things that are going to change. Go ahead. I'm sorry, David.
Well, what about national sovereignty? One of the other things everybody's so paranoid about is, New World Order. They want to take away my country and just merge us all into some gigantic octopus.
No, that was what the bad guys had in mind for us. That's what the FEMA camps were built for. They're going to reduce the population and all this other happy stuff. What's going to happen is that, yes, we're going to become world conscious, meaning that you're going to be aware of the Chinese, Japanese, whomever you're dealing with, the Russians, whoever. They will also have to be conscious of us. There will be much more friendly compliance in terms of trying to accomplish things than has ever happened before for one simple fact. Sovereignty, yes, or no. Now, nobody. War is good for absolutely nothing, just like the song says. The idea of war has been stepped on. Now, people don't believe in ETs, but I'm going to tell you something. There's a thing called law of averages. Any gambler knows that trying to pull in a 5-card draw game, a royal flush, is extraordinarily difficult. You cannot have more than, on average, 10 out of 100 guns that won't fire at the same time. And yet, recently, there's been whole armies and groups of troops that have had all misfires. You put a battalion online, you aim at the enemy and pull the trigger, and it goes clink. That's not possible. I'm sorry. Somebody screwed with something.
Right.
I don't know what it was. Don't care. I'm just glad that it worked. It's sort of like The Day the Earth Stood Still. That movie is excellent. All he did was turn electricity off for about 10 minutes, and it screwed everybody's mind up.
Yep.
And these are the kind of things of proof that are going to be readily available in very near future. This is not very far down the road. The thing that's going on now is tactical positioning. They're getting ready to do this, and I'm hoping that it happens sooner than later. I wish it was last week, but I'm not in charge, so I don't really know. But I listen to some people that do deal with these things. That's how come I know what I know.
Yeah, there are windows that already came and went for when they were considering possibly doing this. But what I've heard is that they're not giving out specific dates now because they don't want something else to come along that changes the window and then have everybody get disappointed.
Well, not only that, but the bad guys are liable to put a roadblock in, or
of course,
roll a landmine up under your truck or something while you're driving down the road, and that's not fun either.
But they're really pushing the envelope too. I mean, they're trying to get away with as much as they can because they know the window is very narrow of how much time they've got. So they're passing executive orders and doing all this crazy stuff in this last gasp, which is ironic because the more of this kind of stuff they do, the faster they bring about their own demise.
Exactly. Because what they're doing is they're spending their ammunition. It's kind of like when you're running, you want to make sure you don't run out of bullets when you got bad guys coming at you. And
right.
When they're shooting at you, you need to be able to shoot back. If you don't, you get a
Oh,
problem.
it gets better.
So the ammunition, you have to look at the ammunition they're shooting. Now, in some cases, they have done a lot of different things, but lately, the ammunition has been simply press or hollow or without meaning.
Right.
So that's a big difference. It's like shooting a blank.
Yeah, it's a psyop.
Yeah.
It doesn't have any tactical advantage other than the psychological advantage.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, they want to psych everybody out and make people real nervous and scared and this and that. And
if we go back in military history and we look at how Hitler was defeated, basically his communications had been secretly tapped. He didn't realize this. Winston Churchill had to make the terrible decision of allowing his own family to be bombed in London, knowing that if he gave it away, they wouldn't be able to win the war. And what happened was they tweaked Hitler's ego to such an extent that they got him to march on Stalingrad, Russia, in the winter. And then the slash and burn policy was used so that his soldiers couldn't find any homes to plunder, any people to rob, or any food to get.
Exactly.
And they perished in the winter.
Exactly.
And it wiped out his army. And so the lesson of history is that when people get desperate, when they get angry, they get really stupid. And ultimately, it was Hitler's narcissism and his ego and his pride and his vanity that brought him down. It was him starting to get stupid in the heat of battle and making dumb moves that he wasn't thinking like a chess player, and he wasn't thinking 5 moves ahead. And I think that there is such a lack of central command right now. They can't think far enough ahead, and they're making these knee-jerk decisions out of fear, and that's what's bringing them down. They're getting stupid, they're getting sloppy, and you're seeing more and more evidence of this right out in the open on the headlines of the news.
Exactly. Now, I understand one of the key points that they're going to take is control of all the news media. So you're going to have a full channel, all the news media, to include all the other channels, are going to carry the information for a time. They'll return back to movie channels and things of that nature afterwards. But all of your news channels then will be free to actually report some news. Now, I'm going to give you guys an example real quick. Look at the news during the day. And I'm going to tell you, if you look at it closely, you'll find that there isn't any news. They're not reporting squat. The reason is they don't want you to know what's going on for real. And that's the difference between them and us and the reality of this program as it's been laid out. The plan is very simple, and it's being followed to the letter.
Well, I remember back when I was working on my music album,
This
Awakening.
is his introduction, right? I can tell it's starting to hurt. And it will.
That Hitler's actions against the
Hitler.
These are crazy events, and from what I've heard, and apparently now you're hearing the same thing, everybody in the Pentagon, good guys and bad guys, is aware that this is being done, and that these actions are not singling out any one nation. They're actually going against anybody committing an act of aggression. You're absolutely right about the day the Earth stood still as an excellent point of comparison for that, and a teaching that seems to have been sort of like a time capsule of truth that we wouldn't realize exactly how prophetic it was until these moments actually started to happen for real. That movie was a documentary. It was not fiction. And there's a series of very compelling pieces of evidence that are coming out, one of which is the Iran drone scandal, in which our best RQ-170 Sentinel drone is flying over Iran, and somehow they gained control of it and landed it intact, and they published the pictures of it on the internet, and everybody can see that. Now, the thing is,
remember that when they
what
landed
people may
the
not
drone,
realize is that the
hijacked
RQ-170 Sentinel drone uses a communication system that is quintuple encrypted and was believed completely impossible to be hacked. It is the most advanced communication system that any of the classified assets that we have, including all the stuff coming out of Area 51, Lockheed Skunk Works, nothing that we have in the Black Ops community has a communication system and a guidance system more advanced than what was on the RQ-170. Therefore, the fact that that could be overtaken and grounded means that nothing in our possession, nothing in our arsenal is free from potentially being overridden. And this is one of a variety of things you can look at in the mainstream media right now. You can see when this came out. And in fact, the U.S. government, in an astonishing act of humility, pretty much begged Iran to give it back.
I can't blame them.
It's unbelievable that they actually acknowledged that it was real, acknowledged that it was taken, and said, would you please give it back?
They're expensive.
So I want people to stop and think about that and realize that's probably the most traceable of these events so far. where you can read all about it on the internet and see something that actually happened in which a very classified piece of technology was downed for reasons that shouldn't ever have been able to happen. And what I'm hearing is from the insiders that there are cruise missiles that won't fire. There are bunker buster bombs that won't go off. There are tanks that won't start. And it goes on and on and on. It's unbelievable, the scope of what's happening. And that leads me to believe that we are actually dealing with a joint operation in which the boys from Topside, as some like to call them, are making darn sure that this plan that you're talking about right now will succeed. Because
I heard a description that sort of I thought was pretty funny, but does fit. As I understand it, these guys were described as tree-hugging hippies from space. They had a primary directive of non-interference. And what are you doing zapping me into Gaga land? That's a quote from somebody on a security thing. If somebody wants to know about us and as much as can be and wants to hear recordings, freedomreigns.us. That's all I got to say.
Terrific. Drake, I thank you. And I encourage everyone in this case, let's not worry about copyright. Let's distribute this. You can repost it. You can put it on the internet and put it under your own name, break it up into 1,000 different 10-minute sections, whatever you want to do. We need to get the word out. This is not, nobody's trying to profit off of this.
You can't copyright me.
So just spread the word. We're going to get the transcript done as soon as we can and let people know, because this is going to be the most significant event in history when it happens. And your role, you listening to this, is going to be to help calm people down, get them educated so that they're not going to freak out, and that this can happen in as orderly a fashion as possible.
Well, David, I appreciate you having me on. I really do.
Thank you, Drake. It's been my pleasure. And to everyone out there, God bless you, and keep up the good work. Thanks so much.
All right, so there you go, the great unveiling of Drake, right? So that was his first entry onto the scene, and so David Wilcox graciously launched him, and so here we go with a little bit of this is going to be a little bit not a recording, but it's going to be just another page that I found that kind of explains some things about it, and I did have like a little summary done for me by my little Merlin friend here. So the rabbit hole goes deeper and deeper. Okay, let's put this over here so I can look at it. There we go. All right. And we can just do it this way. Whoop. Oh yeah, let's put that. Oh, there we go. Okay. So let's see, oh yeah, no, actually I wanted to do this one first. Hold on. Oh, where's the one on okay, so we talk about the infiltration part, right? So during this time, there was a guy named Rick Late. Now, Rick Late is I'll have to pull this thing up here. Where's it at? So I got like a million tabs. Oh, here it is. Okay. So I actually talked to this dude one time. Now, one of the things I did was, in order to try to get Drake to have an honest interview with someone, that wasn't a very honest interview, right? There basically was just like a lofting softballs, a lot of confirmation going on, and so on. But in order to try to get a legitimate interviewer to interview him that may be interested in this topic, there was a guy named Josh Tolley. Now, Josh is still out there, but what Josh does these days is he promotes entrepreneurship. I don't know if the sheriff is still around, but if he is, he may remember Josh Tolley. Some of you may remember him. I don't know. But anyways, Josh Tolley, I used to call into his show a lot. I like Josh Tolley. He's I was a hardcore Ron Paul guy, and he was very legitimate, very on the level, very cool dude. Used to be a bouncer, got into entrepreneurship and believed that entrepreneurship was one of the solutions. A really solution culture minded kind of guy for his time. And he would do a radio show every day, and it was really easy to call into it. He didn't have a whole lot of it was easy to get through to him, right? So I could usually get through and have a conversation with him. It was a lot of fun. He was a great guy. And so I brought up the idea of him having Drake on, right? So I pressed the idea, and everybody got real excited about it, right? So I got everybody kind of all jazzed up about getting him on the Josh Tolley show, because Josh was popular at the time. He was part of the Ron Paul crew. Everybody knew Josh Tolley, right? So Josh was like, yeah, I'll have him on. Yeah, this sounds very interesting, right? So we tried to do it, and everybody's pressing Drake, and Drake made it like impossible to go on the show. Like we had our run-ins at the time. Like I would confront him from time to time about this and that, and ask him questions. And he would kind of bullshit his way out of it. But this Josh Tolley thing really took off, right? And this is during the time, like I told you, he had a bunch of different kind of characters on, right? And we're going to go through some of the different characters that came through this Drake phenomenon that was going on. I did tell the story about Project Camelot already. I told it on another episode when we were talking about the guy who started the Galactic Federation, a light rabbit hole, right? He was on there, Neely. And then but the interview we watched was Project Camelot Carrie, right? So I told that story about how I confronted them when they tried to make the Ron Paul people start go and vote for Obama, and I had the whole crowd turn on him. All right, so this is another one of the guys that was part of the little crew. The Camelot people didn't last very long. I think I have an article about that up here that where Wilcox actually warned Drake about Project Camelot, which is just so weird. I guess it was his competition or something. But the one other guy is this guy named Rick Light. Now Rick Light, I'll try to find a picture of him if I can, but he was a militia guy, so he's always on there in his militia gear, full camo, had the hat, had the whole 9 yards, right? So this dude, right, was on there, and all he would talk, he talked like this. He was, and he would say, well, my solution is for everybody to join the militia. It's the militia that's the answer, right? So he was trying to recruit people to go into his militia, right? He wanted people to join the militia so that they can then work together with the militia to assist the military during this coup, right? This whole idea that they were going to get the green light at this point. They had green light, red light, and all that stuff that I can't find anymore because they took the damn website down. But they had the whole thing like parsed out, right? I'll try to look at it when we listen to another one of these interviews coming up. As Drake progressed, and we'll see where he's at now. And where he's at now is hilarious, guys. It's going to be the highlight of the night when we hear Drake's new drift, right? But anyways, so this guy points out, and then before it's news, is a trash site, by the way. I don't recommend this site. It's totally trash, but people will put stuff up there, and it's totally misleading. I do not endorse this site at all. But I pulled this up because it's just as a mention. If you look at the date, this is August 2nd, 2012. Let me turn this banner off, by the way, because this interview's over. Okay. And the reason why I wanted to point this out is because you can tell from April, which we just saw, this April interview, to August, at this time, momentum was like swinging, right? And we haven't gotten to the elections yet, but we're coming up on the end of the primary season here. And at this point, this is like we're starting to realize that they were shutting the doors on Ron Paul. Even our little delegate strategy wasn't working out. He'd just gotten pretty much run over by the establishment. Mitt Romney was going to take it, and unlike Bernie Sanders, who took the knee to the establishment and turned all of his supporters over to the establishment candidate, Ron Paul did not do that, right? So Rick Light was this militia guy, right? And I always had a feeling about this dude, and I used to talk to him in instant messages. And he was one of the admins on the Facebook group, right? The Cosmic Voice Facebook group. Now, Cosmic Voice is an important thing to note. It was called the Universal Voice, and then it went to Cosmic Voice. It's an important name to note because I'm going to show you something about it here in a second. But Rick Light, the thing about Josh Tolley, right? No, so Drake made it impossible to go on there. He says, well, I had to be able to dual broadcast it. It's for my own safety because I was like, this dude's legitimate. He had a legitimate radio show. And there was no need for this, right? But Drake did this so he didn't have to go on there and get questioned by a real journalist, because Josh would have asked him real questions. And like Jacob's doing right here, Josh knew the Constitution, and he could call him on some of the stuff he was talking about, man. So he didn't want any part of that. So it kind of caused a little bit of a stir. So to run cover for this, right? Run cover for Drake during this thing, Rick decided he was going to go on there, and he just went on there and talked about the militia and just basically kept it there. Didn't speak for Drake, didn't talk about any part of the plan or any of that stuff. And it just turned out to be a militia based, the importance of militia, history of militia kind of interview, right? It didn't go anywhere, but that's how I knew Rick. And I talked to him, and I remember talking to him one time about some stuff. Like, he's one of the guys who would get me unbanned when I got banned from channels by mods. He would get me put back in the group, right? But I remember talking to him one time. He goes, "Oh, don't get me wrong, I'll kill him if I ever." No. He was like a real tough guy, right? But he went on the Josh Tolley show, and they did that stuff. But here's an article I found, and again, I don't endorse before it's news, but I like what it said. It's very short. It just said Rick Light, aka Minuteman, that was his name he went by, on the group exposed as FBI informant. Now he left suddenly from the Drake scene. Like he was there one day, gone the next. What happened to Minuteman, right? And he was just boop gone. And so evidently he may have been put in there as an informant to handle Drake. Like the momentum of this group was big, and they probably said, well, this weirdo just kind of came out of nowhere, told a bunch of stories, and people started buying into it because he was saying a lot of things. He was selling hope, right? And of course, at this point, it didn't look good for Ron Paul. People were getting agitated. They wanted action. They really wanted this to go through, and a lot of people were easily duped into to believing that this plan was real, and that we had to do something, and the Patriots had enough. And he was really selling it. And again, Jacob, people weren't that sophisticated in terms of looking things up and knowing it. They were just taking people's words for it. And that's why groups like mine were out there to kind of keep them from falling in these rabbit holes, these false, crisis actor bullshit, this Drake bullshit, right? And a lot of people started leaving when he started mentioning the ETs and how the ETs were working together, and he was in contact with them, and they were helping clean up the chemtrails with their UFOs and all this other shit, right? So he kind of jumped the shark on that one. But it says, it comes to my attention, a blog talk radio program today will shed light on Rick Minuteman Light as an FBI informant and Drake's connection to all this. Tune in here. So unfortunately, when you go to click on this, nothing happens, and you can't. It just goes nowhere, right? And you try to click on this former white hat deal, and boom, it's gone too. So there's just no connection here that I can find. Let's see. There's nothing down here. I can order some stuff by phone. If I want some Hermonomics or some Minto Copper. But yeah, this is like a citizen journalist site, and people just posted the most weird stuff on this one. But I want to point out that, yeah, as we saw with the Whitner Fednapping in J6, right? There's always this air of these type of people that are running around. So eventually I guess he was exposed for who he was, and blah blah blah, right? Let's see. Have you looked for some of this on the Wayback Machine? Yeah, actually, I did, and I do have a few things on the Wayback Machine, but I couldn't find too much, man. Like even this vital update page. Let's see, I'll pull it up. It only gives me like a little bit of stuff, right? So I found this one thing. Let me stop sharing this and pull this up. And a lot of it got taken down. I should have done this a year ago. I think more of it was up a year ago, but for some reason, a lot of it got taken down. Here we go. So Wayback Machine, right here. Boom. All right. See, here you go. Oh shoot, I gotta move this tab. Where's it at? Right here. Move this tab over here. Okay. There we go. So yeah. Vital updates, right? And you scroll down, and can I open this? Just see if I open this in a new window, what happens? Will it show me something? See, I think all this stuff is gone. They just got rid of it. But it only has like this one little dot right here, right? And then you look down here, see home of Drake. Tonight, Drake will be giving vital updates concerning our freedom, right? And this is the Global Voice. This is gone, right? Global Voice was the original group for this. And let me see if it'll pull something up. It looks like it's trying to. Okay. Oh, here we go. Actually, here's something. Here's something. Let me remove this and start this one up. Here's something. This may help. I really want to get to the part where he started introducing UFO stuff if I can. Okay, this is a good look at what it looked like. Boom. All right. Let me scroll in here. All right. Okay, welcome to the Universal Voice, formerly Global Voice, right? So Global Voice, Universal Voice, and then eventually Cosmic Voice. That's the three. Freedom loving around the world. We are the radio home of Drake, right? So this is all the way up to like 2012, 2013. So they're going into the next year now, right now. We are not a shock news group. Post peacefully, not be tolerated. And then Denise Redner, she was like his partner. If you want to give her a call, I guess this number, I don't think it still works. Let's see if this works at all. Nope. All this stuff is so old, it's gone. But let's see, it's the chat. Let's see, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. But anyways, yeah, that's a little look at that Universal Voice. It was formerly the Global Voice, and then it became the Cosmic Voice, right? So, and to show you, let's see, These guys, the Cosmic Boys, are still around today. In fact, I have a let's see, can I pull this up? Save as, save, and then can I open it? There we go. All right, you can see this, right? We heard about Benjamin Fulford and all that stuff. These guys are now Cosmic Boys. They parted ways with Drake. And here is a shared screen of their. Can I do this? What's that? Oh, I have to do the entire screen for this one. All right. There you go. You see that they're still in operation today on Facebook. And look at this. September 24th at 9:21 p.m., Elizabeth Griggs posted Benjamin Fulford and Kim Gogan, the intel drop of the ages. Right? This guy's still at it. So yeah, Benjamin Fulford will have to come up next as far as historic internet grifters who are, and he's still in operation today too, evidently. I thought that, man, you see, this is the whole thing. I think these guys go away and they don't, because really they rise to fame and they get debunked, and their predictions don't come true. I'm like, well, how does anybody keep even following these guys? How are they still around? I don't even understand it. But somehow they managed to escape time, and I don't understand how they do that. I doubt many people outside of this. Look, oh my God, hold on, I totally missed this. Let me pull that back up. Share screen. Okay, entire. Go. Look at this. I didn't even see this at first. Look where it came from. Beforeitsnews.com. This is like the same site we were just looking at, right? Same BS bullshit site. That site will trick people into believing stuff, man. But anyways, yeah, there you go. Still bullshit news at beforeitsnews.com. And let's take a look at like where this went from there. I know there's one more thing I wanted to show you before we jumped over to some of the new stuff. 2013. Okay. Yeah, here we go. This guy. Okay, this dude. Oh, where's it at? Okay, so there's this guy named Alfred. I can't pronounce his middle name. It's too complicated. Webry, right? And this dude was on their side for a while, and then he parted ways with them, and then accused Drake of war crimes, right? But he oh man, there's Dolores Cannon of all people. So he was a big Andromeda Council guy, Nibiru, Reptilian Greys. He kind of crossed him into the UFO rabbit hole, right? So there's the crossover here. We'll take a look at this for a minute. Let me pull this up. There we go. Present. Oh, let me pull this over here. Okay. And thank God for him, because he helped me find the picture that I was looking for desperately, which is right here. Okay. So this is him. I actually contacted this guy and he wouldn't do an interview with me. I guess I know why now. But yeah, see, you recognize the picture? So here we go. This guy's going to talk about the future of the Matrix. We are fractals of the creator with Drake Kit Bailey. So now here he goes from this point to this point. This is from 11 years ago too, right? So and let's see. Yeah, caveat lector, whatever that means. Dated April 1st. This is the memo that he sent, and so let's see what he has to say here. I didn't have a chance to review this one too much, but this guy, I did contact him, and after he apparently had parted ways with Drake, and I was hoping that he would like give me some information on him, like, where'd you meet this guy? What do you think of him? Is he a Fed or whatnot? But this guy's like kind of a new agey dude, anyways. He's a grifter too, so I'm guessing he was like doesn't have anything to say. All right.
Welcome back. I'm Alfred Weber, and we're on Exopolitics TV. And today we have an extraordinary guest, and we're greatly privileged and honored to have
We're not going to listen to the whole
with
thing.
us. And Mr. Drake Kent Bailey. Did I get that correct, Drake?
Yes, you did.
And he is known as Drake, and he is an extraordinary person. Drake, you and I have had various phone conversations, and you shared with me that you see yourself, or rather you are, a product of the hybrid program. And I wondered if you could just briefly explain that for our audience.
Well, basically what it
Thank you,
entails is fairly simplistic.
I appreciate the $2 super
The
chat.
premise of our government
Drake
and
C.
its intelligent attitude towards things put ET in a funny situation. And that was where our government military felt like they were in charge. And that did not go over too well with beings that were extraordinarily advanced, so much so that they had trouble even coming to visit and further to be in a physical form and talk to us at this level. This had been explained, but our government people apparently didn't miss that part. After their extraordinary efforts to just be here and to show up and talk to us, our government decided they were in charge, period. And that ET would be assimilated or brought into our system. And this was not basically the idea, and ET took exception to it. And one of the military attaches was the ambassador who was a part of these interviews, said, "That's it." And he got up, walked over, and opened the door. And the ambassador excused himself and said, "What's the matter with you?" And the guy looked at them and said, "You think you're in charge of something? I'll tell you what. You come to deep space with your present attitudes and problems, and I will blast you to kingdom come. You are not allowed out of a certain area, period, no matter what. I won't let you." And he walked out. ET then decided that because they needed to raise the human race as a whole, they went all over the planet under an operation or program, and what the civilian program. What this was.
Okay, so let me before hold on. I remember I need to sum up some stuff, man. I catch us up here. So as Drake went on, and as he let me just pull this up back over. I forget because we're jumping ahead here, and I didn't kind of wrap up how my interactions with Drake and my group's interactions with Drake kind of like we kind of ended it, right? So the Ron Paul didn't get the nomination. Project Camelot came in, tried to get everybody to vote for Obama in the general. If they saw a good opportunity to get this grift on, right? Everybody, we told them to go take a hike. We destroyed them. They left. But that pretty much at this point, we're all waiting for this thing to happen, right? And at this point, Drake was talking about how they were going to run an operation, and we would remove Obama, and Obama was going to be a flipperoo, right? That's what he called it, a flipperoo. He might be a flipperoo, right? And this is why he had to bring the aliens into it, because you see, at this point, we knew Ron Paul wasn't going to get the nomination, therefore he would be president. And we're all sort of sitting around waiting, hoping that this delegate thing isn't going to work. It didn't work. They just blocked out our delegates, even though we had the most delegates. They blocked them out, and they wouldn't allow us to do what we wanted to do, even though it was constitutional. Like it was a legitimate try. It just did. They owned the GOP. This is why it's so important that we never let the neocons get the GOP again. Because they will lock that door and we will never get back in. I mean, that's for any reason. This is the reason we have to always be voting anti-establishment, because we cannot give it back. Because we know what they did to Ron Paul. We saw that. We were there, right? And they will lock that party down. We'll never have real choice again in this country. But that aside, right? The reason why he had to bring the ETs into it is because everybody started losing that hope, right? And after that, we didn't quite know what to do. And so he then decided they were going to grift people into this idea that they were going to have this event, right? That was going to get people mobilized to go assist the militia in some capacity, to aid the military, and to take the country back from the powers that be. And that they had gotten Obama to become a flipperoo, as he said. And what he was going to do was graciously step down and allow Ron Paul to be president, as he should have been, right? So that was where the grift went. It went from this idea that they were going to have this constitutional movement to oust all the dark cabal people, the banking system, all this stuff, unleash all this new technology, free energy, all the good things, man, all the good things, right? And then, but we were going to have a legitimate election. They were going to watch out for it, make sure it went through correctly. And, he would just build up hope. No fear, always hope. right? And so when hope was lost, he had to put more hope in there. This is the opposite of like using fear, right? Using hope to form this group, right? And a hopeful group was gonna go forward and help this thing happen, right? But we had to wait for the green light because you had the red light, the green light, the yellow light, and the green light, right? So everybody was waiting and showing up to his weekly talks, right? His updates, his vital updates to see what color the light was going to be and if it was time to do something. And he'd spend 3 hours basically saying nothing, kind of going around circles, making up stories, answering questions. He had brought people in to fill time up for him. So I guess he was running out of things to say. But you know, and they'd all just talk about how important it is. They talk about the Constitution, how important the militia was, all this other stuff, right? Self-sufficient food, how to do this, it was just like that, right? A bunch of BS to get people to coming back because they had so many people at that point that didn't want to lose the crowd, right? So, so anyways, that's when the aliens came in, and that got really interesting and became very, very interesting to listen to him talk about this stuff because it was so funny. We would all sit around just laughing about it, and we didn't feel like he was any threat at this point. It was kind of more of a habit, but we didn't want people to kind of get sucked into voting for Obama or whatnot. But obviously, at this point, only the people that were kind of fringy were left. And after that, we ran off the Camelot, Project Camelot people. We pretty much were like, okay, I think our job's done here. But I would go back and listen to them anyways and say, well, is there anything left they're going to try? You know, just kind of keep an eye on them. And so the alien stuff started coming up, and he talked about the aliens eating chemtrails. You saw an alien ship chasing behind an airplane the other day, eating the chemtrail behind it. It's so funny. He would come up with some of these great crazy stories, right? And we're like, okay, so this is done. You know, the Rick Light fell off, the Dragon Lady fell off, then the global voice split, right? And Drake went into cosmic voice, right? So it went from global voice to universal voice to cosmic voice. And so then that was a split that happened there and moved over from group to group. And it just, it became kind of a thing, right? But I thought at this point he was done for. He lost his numbers. They were dwindling. And in 2013, let me pull this up real quick. Let's see. I think this one is, where's this at again? This is posted August 20th. Yeah. Okay. So here we go. He's kind of getting into this whole thing about the aliens around this time in August, right? Rick Light had left around the beginning of August or end of July. So the militia part was out of it. The aliens came in, and this is when this dude came in. This Albert Webfried dude came in, and they started doing this more alien talk, right? And that's what this is about. We'll listen to some of this, but we'll listen to some of this, and now I think we're caught up, and then we'll kind of get into we're not going to listen to all this, just a little bit of it, just to give you a taste, because I want to get you up to where he is today, and I'm going to show you what happened after this, right? Because something happened after this that really exposed more of it, and he's the guy that kind of came out and said some things about it. So we'll let this play for a minute, and then we'll get on to the next part.
Where ET took future information. They knew at the time either who were going to be mates and or when conception would be. And before the time of the conception of an individual, they would take both parents one at a time and adjust them. And this is a quote from them. It's an adjustment and it's not explainable. To make sure that they would have a certain set of traits. Then they also implanted them with what you would call small amplifiers to make sure that these traits were ingrained in the children at a basic biological DNA type of level. So that the children, when they came out, would be extraordinary. If there was one or more, it varies. Then each child at a certain age was also abducted, worked on or adjusted and implanted to give us a greater advantage of capabilities. And that certain of us who they knew the general future timeline of would develop into what they were supposed to be, but at a greater proficiency, a greater level of what that was. This does not necessarily mean that it's just going to be confined to a specific talent. It might be someone like myself who is a generalist. So the talents and capabilities, first of all, were confined to people who were sensitive. This is someone who is able to be sensitive to events in terms of how they will unfold according to their actions, and that sort of thing. Sort of intuitive or highly intuitive type of person. It was best when both parents were both that way. In my case, I lucked out and both parents were that way. Then the children, after these people were modified or whatever you want to call it and implanted, would be exceptional without assistance on their own. So when you take the children and also adjust or modify and implant them, then the children can come out exceptional in just about every way possible. It begins to open the door slowly to a greater probability of your capabilities, literally. So the civilian program was initiated for two reasons. One, they needed to be sure that the human race could be aware and have the capable potential that we're going to need here in the near future, as well as possibly make advancements in the general, I'd call it the civil makeup of the whole planet. So in other words, you're not confined to any one thing, but everyone kind of goes in the same general direction, wherever they may be, whatever culture, etc. So the idea of the program was to advance mankind as a whole, so that we would be more ready for what's coming in the very near future, which is a greater advancement. And I am a part of that program.
Excellent. Now, do you have any indication of how many graduates of that program there are, and whether it's an ongoing program?
I don't know about ongoing. My understanding was that our children, the children that I have or my generation has, would be of a very particular type of general social leaning, more towards the let's enjoy, let's have fun, and forget the serious stuff. Other than if you need to apply a science or something like that, you would seriously attend to that sort of focus, and application is a little different than being serious about everything. So if anybody really reads anymore and they read the Bible, they'll find that the joy, rejoy connotations fit directly into that. It's sort of like coming at life like a little kid that wants to run and scream and holler and roll in the grass because it just feels so nice and everything's so perfect. Ideology. That in that sort of a social parameter, you make great strides in a whole bunch of areas.
Right. Very good. Now, the way that our interview kind of happened today was that you and I were having a conversation, and you mentioned that you have been involved and had lived with the originator of the concept of the Matrix, and I went, wow, and I'm sitting here looking at Wikipedia, and it says the Matrix is a science fiction action media franchise, and then they say created by Andy and Larry Wachowski and distributed by Warner Brothers. And there were 3 feature films, The Matrix 1999, and and it stars Keanu Reeves, Lawrence Fishburne, and others. Now, you and I know that, first of all, Wikipedia is not the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So could you lead us through how it was that you got involved with the originators of the Matrix, and are these the Wachowski brothers, or is it somebody prior to the Wachowski brothers?
Well, the man I know who told me and proved that he wrote the Matrix, the story itself, as well as portions of it adapted to scenes and screenplay type of writing. This will be like a scene here. Envision, look at this and think about this, and then to describe a screen like you would with summer theater or something of this nature, where it would be a little bit of a stage type of presentation to get people to use their mind, so they would envision, they'd get pictures in their head. So the originator proved it to me in that way, because he showed me some original writings that he knew that they were going to have to change. As well as the base storyline is totally different than what was originally written. Now, how many sets of hands it went through in order to get to the screen, I don't know. I do know that it was rewritten so that it could be a continuation, more so than the original, much more so. Then you have the processes that are put into the movie in terms of a development of an individual who is suddenly dropped into a totally different idea of realities, and that there might be more than one of them, and you might have had your head dropped into a computer program kind of thing. That's kind of hard for a lot of people to think about, and what those things entail. So that's, primarily the basis for it. But, my suggestion to everybody is get a copy of the movie The Matrix, the first one. Don't worry about the second and third. Those are primarily into an area called commercialization, where you can turn a buck. But the first movie, the basis of The Matrix at this level is one of a training program, so to speak, a testing ground where an individual can go through whatever life they happen to be traveling through at the time. And because of the incidents and fun and games that they run across within that lifetime, they can act, react, or whatever according to the situation and circumstance, what their involvement is. And the ideology is to come out on the other side, not only clean in terms of not having done something nasty just because you could, but also to advance yourself beyond the limitation. Now, one of the things with the Matrix that everybody sort of misses, and that is the introduction or the beginnings of it. The first thing they do is tell you that that they did something to the main character. Now, I hate to tell you, but that's not possible worldwide without having some sort of centralized ideology and control. So you get back into the things that you've mentioned. You have the positive and negative timeline, and those are a portion, but not the complete thing with the whole of it. Because somebody who don't know what something is, you can hang it in front of their face, they still won't recognize it. If it's too much in the way, they're probably throwing it in the trash. And it can be the most important thing on the planet. But when people don't recognize that they've been played games with, right now we got a lot of financial stuff coming out where the banks have been playing with interest rates on every kind of anything that has an interest rate. Everything, all of it. They've been playing it to their advantage. So nothing is, quote, sacred or out of reach. Everything has to become a corporation or it can't exist. You cannot be a nonprofit unless you're incorporated as a nonprofit and things of this nature. Well, the problem is that they cannot make those things stick. The problem is that people have said, well, then we just won't have one at all. So either way, in any direction you go, supposedly they win. You can't fight City Hall. So when you break free of some of that, and it don't take much, that first little spot of light that gets in your head starts opening things up, and you will be led according to what your abilities are in understanding in a specific direction to full absolute freedom. So that's primarily where the the crux of it all.
Right. So the essential insight that, at least that I have gathered from what you've said, which I believe is a considerable insight, is that the matrix is inside, and eventually the matrix just disappears down to nothing, down to a point of nothing, as we open.
God says, believe as you so choose. It's a believe it or not kind of thing. If you want it, we can give you the answer. If you don't want it, that's fine. But realize, and this is the fun part, that it's common anyway. Mustard seed. If you had the faith or believing of the capability of that little itty bitty mustard seed, you could tell a mountain to go jump in the ocean.
How far it was for the mustard seed
so
from
long
there to there.
as you had no doubt in your heart. That means the center core of your being, everything in your mind and being said that thing would do what you said. It will. Well, that's a little bit fur for anybody to go. So I'll give you how not to hit your thumb, and I want you to take that and think of a simple situation you don't like. Apply the same sort of thing. It ain't just a God bless it. This involves getting a picture of the way you want it.
Yeah.
2025, say, what's your prognosis? Walk us through what your vision for that period.
Well, it's not my vision as much as it is a predestination.
Okay.
There's a great clock that this is weird. I understand that there's a great clock. This deals with that Wheel in the Sky by Ezekiel.
Okay.
Works in some of the same ways. And what's interesting about it is that this great cosmic clock deals with the cosmos, that which is greater than universes, and the entity known as I call it the creator because it doesn't, to me, have a gender, as far as I've been able to find.
Yes,
you get this creator who puts together this extraordinarily unlimited, complex mechanism, and he gives it a little push, like you do with an old clock when you start them up. You give the pendulum a little push, and it starts going click, 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 click. Well, the difference between that clock and a clock the creator started. And when he started, you only wind the spring once. It never gets unwound all the way. It's always constant, always the same. These are kind of some of the, it's like the atomic clock is read in a different way, but there's a spring in there. A little atom jumps up and goes ka-ding, and they get a reading, and they go, yeah, there we go. Now when's it going to do it again? Ding. Okay, now they got a time frame in between each, you know, and all this happy stuff. You want to get into complications, but the understanding's simple. He started this clock, and it's going tick, tick, tick. Now, part of that mechanism, known as the clock, deals with the basis of a solar system in terms of the way in which you got planets going round and round, a central star or sun. That's pretty easy for everybody to get their head around. Now imagine if there are more of them than there are grains of sand on our planet, and you got a galaxy. You have probably, give or take, several trillion races of intelligent beings in our galaxy alone.
Wow.
When people start understanding that we ain't by ourselves, yes, we're the crown of creation. Now that gets into some interesting things, but the ideology of having buddies, and they may be running around up in outer space, they may be stuck in the same reality. There's supposed to be a whole load more of these planets just like this one. People are struggling and they're getting squatted on by whomever or whatever, and they're trying to deal with it and they don't want to do it and they need help. Some of the people I've been talking to, they're supposed to be ETs or related or something. I don't know if they're cousins or how that works, but they're going to go help them. They're next. Okay. We are key. Now, I don't know how this happened or where it comes out. I could probably figure the science out if I could get a good picture of a few things and do some pretty heavy math. I'm pretty sure I could figure it out. I haven't found anything yet that I couldn't, but the situation is this. We were designated in this country as being the key country to the planet. Our planet and solar system is key to the rest of existence in terms of being able to have light defeat the darkness. Or as better understood, the negative timeline being drawn into and assimilated by the positive timeline so that there is no more negativity. In other words, you don't hit your finger with the hammer anymore. That's something you got to remember about this. The further you get up, the more automatic things can be, the higher the technologies. Well, think about where we are, and we're kind of low on the totem pole. Well, let's take a step up, all the way from caveman to now. Okay, imagine going from now, which would be caveman, to wherever it ends up. I can't see quite that far. I know some of the sciences, but I can't see quite that far. And guess what? We do it twice. So that's really going to leave me in the dark. We're going from 3 all the way through 4, all the way into 5. Now, that's a double ascension. Now,
Right.
This leaves a different timeline than people think. We're due for our first completion between now and 2012.
Wow.
We're due to make our final ascension by spring of 2013, supposedly. And this depends on what can be found after we get there and can look at it directly. Now, some of the knowledge, and I'm going to be real concise about this, some of the knowledge of that is not available to our capability of understanding yet. The reason for that is that there is experiential processes that you have to go through. So you got a little time lag there. The Mayan calendars and all of these things do stipulate these. They do show them. Somebody didn't do their homework and show the extended Mayan calendar yet. I think that's extraordinary.
The Mayan calendar.
I was able to find it and find out who had it and the whole 9 yards. So it's out there. I'm just kind of waiting around to see it. I think it's going to be neat because it shows, well, the one we got goes to 2050.
That's extraordinary.
Doesn't show anything after 2012. It's just like a looking glass, this ultra secret look into the future project the military had, or government or whatever. They could see into the future. They could tell what the elections were going to be according to what was done here or there or whatever. Okay, well,
they didn't do too good of a job in 2012.
Then with a lighter load, their sphere of influence becomes more positive. Now you have a sphere of influence.
Right. So let me show that where this ended up. Right. This guy ended up parting ways with Drake, and let me show you why. Here it is, right here. And this is interesting because this goes into some of the other stuff we've covered on the channel. What was going on with Cosmic Voice, right? What was this all about? So I'm going to pull this up now. Let's see. Okay. This is what this gentleman had to say. Oops, let me go like this to like this. Boom. Okay, and let's make it scroll in here. All right, Cult Education Institute, right? Drake Kent Bailey cult collapsing. August 15th, 2013. The Drake Kent Bailey prophecy cult is collapsing. His blog talk radio program, The Universal Voice, is now discontinued, and the hosts of the show have posted a recording of their resignation message in which they revealed that Bailey is verbally abusive and that he said that he is on the level with God, right? For more than a year, Drake, as far as he is known, has been predicting mass arrests of the dark cabal that rules the USA and the world. But every day is come and gone. once had thousands of online followers, but has steadily lost his audience because of his announcements that never materialized. Other things. Drake claims telepathic communication with ETs, access to inside Pentagon information, and knowledge of suppressed technologies that can cure diseases, regenerate lost limbs, and deliver unlimited free energy. The final conclusion is right here. The direct link is here. So let's see if this is the right thing here. No, nope. It's not here. Right here. All right. Yeah, so here we are. So this is again, remember I mentioned Denise. Denise was always right by my side. And Great Grammy was this nice little old lady who I used to talk to in private, and she had lost both her sons in wars. I think she had 3. She lost all 3 of her sons in wars. And she was a very sweet lady who was always just nice to everybody. And again, she was one of the ladies that would help me get my get admitted to the group when I get kicked out for being too disruptive. But yeah, they I don't know if this is even there. I think it's gone. If I'm right. Let's see. It's gone. But basically they came out and said, all this stuff about Drake. This is the big burn on Drake right here. I don't think that I can get it to play. But yeah, so that's how they ended up splitting up, right? And then they kept the universal voice, and he got cosmic voice. And as we can see, cosmic voice turned into this culty kind of thing, right? So yeah, see, they didn't predict anything useful like the Spanish taking over, right? I forgot about the Mayan calendar. Yeah. Hey, there's Shelly. How you doing? PC says, I am a lizard person. We are on the level of God. Yes, of course. Oh, man, let me post some other stuff up here. Let's see. Oh, yeah, I wanted to show you this too. All right. So this guy named Vivek, of all names, right? And I was like, we were talking earlier about this. I was like, man, what if we could prove, oops, that's not it. What if I could prove that Vivek, the guy who's running for president right now, was actually the guy who helped debunk this guy Drake, right? And this is like going into his history. So this is like the doxing of Drake, if you will, digging into his past and all things on the internet. It always comes down to doxing, doesn't it? So anyways, this thread, right? This is the post right here. It goes into all these things about where he comes from. Firstly, the man's name is Drake. He's a no justification in divulging his name. He left it out there. Everybody knows his name. He uses his real name. He goes into all this stuff about his past, how he'd been part of these groups, right? Well, this thread right here we go. Still and forever a student of the Unity Point, known as the creator. I'm not an artist. I put those videos together. My art is that the ability to join worlds of magic and reality together, and that otherwise may experience the reality of the Great Spirit. So he had this idea that he's like this Indian / alien / he had a bunch of ideas about who he was, right? And they went way back, preceding even the stuff that we watched tonight. But he says, I am known as the Dragon Master, White Dragon. That sounds like KKK does. And as stated in the old legends, I still have a few requirements to meet before the great conflict starts. I am and have been a rainbow warrior for a long time. The more knowledge I find, the more now I am relieved of dealing with more direct conflicts. This has morphed into a better relationship with the creation and allowed greater depths and application and understanding. I am able to converse with all creatures, and I have come across in our small woods, from insects to birds, and we are friends. I provide some food and water as my small attempt to pay them back in some small portion for what other men have done to them in the woods. This is Drake. So you go on and on to his lunacy here. He was part of this Royal Institute. And Drake, D.K. Bailey, Lord Associate, official spokesman for the Royal Institute. Yeah. So all this, none of these links work, by the way. I've tried them all. But yeah, this thread on this group called Avalon, Project Avalon, right? This thread actually goes on, spans 2 years. You can see this is on February 3rd, 2011, right? And it's got it's got 17 pages. And as you can see, it just goes on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. Like all these people coming in. This time of people have viewed this. It was like 38,000 or 40,000 posts I had been viewed that many times, and the posts just go on and on and on and on and on and on and on. So yeah, this is just like to show you the vast amount of people that were like behind this. A lot of new agey folks, right? And this is the whole oh hey, there you go. This is the whole idea behind how much reach he had at one time with these crazy stories, and how it was really like a new age cult, right? We talk about new age cults on here before, and we talk about cults in general and how they work. Again, a mind cult. This one based on hopes that aliens will come and save the day. Here we have 2017. The videos aren't there, so I won't even show this, but the Cosmic Voice 2018, another vital update from Drake. He keeps going on and on and on and on and on, right? But now it's time to see what has Drake become of today, right? What is he doing today? And as we round out this great adventure, of course, I found this out when I went to go look for him again. And I was like, well, is he still out there? What's he doing? I was looking for old stuff, and I found that he was still around. Now, this is where the comedy really gets good, guys. And I'm glad you stuck around for it, because this is going to be worth it. Let me just make sure. Let's see. Okay. Okay, we start right here. Oh, let's get this set up. Okay, so we're gonna now fast forward to present day. Okay. And we're going to take a look at what Drake is up to these days. So this was actually posted 1 year ago. Now, I know that he's still around today, but this was posted 1 year ago. And this is where it gets really good, because now Drake isn't just all those things that we'd heard before, right? He's now a super soldier. And we did cover a little bit of the secret super soldier program, which is like the bottom of the rabbit hole. And I guess that's where you find Drake these days. And this is going to be good. So get ready to laugh, guys. Hey, Emma, MLS Law, how you doing? Welcome, man. We are looking at old school internet history tonight. I'm going through a gentleman named Drake Kent Bailey, who is the original Q. Early in the program, we saw how he was leading this idea that there was a plan back in 2012 to have to replace the government, and how he's trying to spin up patriots to get involved with militia programs. And eventually, when none of his predictions worked out, the aliens were involved. A whole litany of things. It's just a bunch of conspiratainment tonight, and we're having a good time, having some great laughs. And thank you for coming by, sir. I appreciate it. We need to get together sometime, man, for sure. Right now, I'm getting ready to see. This is where Drake is present day. This was a year ago, and as you can see, he's part of this little group here. And this is Gale of Gaia. Okay, and this gentleman, I can't quite see his name here, but he's got a whole bunch of fun stories for us. And get ready to laugh, fellas, because this is gonna be funny. Here we go. Drake present day. This is called On Free Range, and the I guess it's the Gaia something network or something. It's not the same one we looked at last week, but this is let me see actually what the name of this is. Oh, this is Paul. This must be Paul over here. A Global Voice Network. Okay, so this is their website from way back when. I guess they got it back going again. Global Voice Radio. Oh, I got it. Okay, here we go.
Well, Central America,
all of Central America,
Mexico, and all of the small countries on the peninsula, including a few of the countries, and I don't know which ones, from South America, are going to be included in one of these areas. Each area gets 3 representatives, period. And even though they're huge, you have to understand that the logistics is a nightmare. Trying to get a bunch of people that hate each other in terms of religious belief or whatever to go along with the program is difficult at best. They've done it before, so they can do it again. From the timeline ideology that I got from Lucor in terms of how long it'll take, they said that it shouldn't take longer than 3 years maximum.
I don't even think it's going to take that long. Bear in mind, most of this is going to go down post-4 transfer, where all the trauma and everything is removed from people's memories and everything, which is going to make things a lot easier. So
they're talking about this event that's supposed to happen where we evolve into the next dimension. So 5D stuff, kind of some of the stuff we talked about recently on previous episodes, where we're going down the rabbit hole on this whole idea of Earth evolving and the Galactic Federation of Light and all that stuff. They don't really mention the Galactic Federation of Light by name, I don't believe, but they are talking about how these guys are actually part of it and they do amazing things. So take a listen.
Oh,
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah.
their whole state of consciousness will be different. Therefore, they're not
Then
going to have
here.
this.
All the crap from here ain't gonna.
You know, they're not going to have all that warring,
Yeah.
angry, nasty attitude.
You don't have to fight over what kind of vinyl siding you put on your house anymore. Or what hand you use to flush the toilet. I mean, there, that's better.
Okay, we don't have any questions yet, and I did post it in the Cosmic Voice group. Hopefully, we'll get a bunch of people coming in from there. And
okay, so
we've
these
got
guys are
25
offshoots
watching on
of
my
the Cosmic
Rumble
Fight.
channel.
okay, Dr.
Cosmic
Kaiser,
Voice.
if you can pop into Rumble and see if anybody's got any questions in there. I'm monitoring the Global Voice Network YouTube channel. Gail, if you can drop a link in your Facebook page.
Page chat group.
Oh,
Okay.
I did. Pop, what link are you
I'll
talking
go
about?
look.
The
Rumble and Odyssey.
either the Rumble, the Odyssey, or the YouTube link. Either way.
Somebody just sent me a message and said there's no sound on Facebook. I don't know why, but
Well, there should be sound everywhere now. Sound was muted on the capture for a while, but for now we're good.
As I've already explained, in group, the gardeners and the Guardian group are not real pleased with me right now. Not that I care. I mean, I'm the one that called them in, and they don't like what we're doing right now because we're putting a lot of truth out on the mainstream media that still has the mind programming stuff turned on. So they're not real happy with.
I still don't understand why they're upset about that when it's the truth. And
because it's a violation of free will. Period. Now we're doing it.
But
So
our
does that
free
make
will
us as bad?
It's very simple.
A breach of free will is a breach of free will. Period.
Well, they pushed our free will first.
You're opposing the Marxist doctrine, and that's the basis for all of the other funky ones that you know of, whether it's something taught in school or not, it doesn't matter. Politics, etc. All of this Green New Deal crap and all that is when you put it through in terms of truth. You know, I always tell them, don't argue with me, argue with upstairs. You don't like God? Talk to management.
Well, I guess the thing that, you know,
I
I've
think
talked to Patty
so.
about
I think
this
he did.
before, and I think in many ways she agrees, is that, you know, we were fed nothing but lies our entire life and generations before us. So right now they need the truth on mass media because that's what everybody relies on, unfortunately. But that's not humanity's fault either. I mean, humanity has been kept down in so many ways that it just it seems only fair as far as I'm concerned, but that's, you know, that's me.
The rules we're supposed to be playing under is in getting this situation corrected. We're not supposed to do things as bad as the opposition.
I suppose.
Well, sure,
But when
it's
the
all
truth
roses.
is the truth. And so it wouldn't matter. I mean, I just,
It's a
I
moo-moo.
don't know. I understand where they're coming from, but at the same time, some horrific wrongs have been going on for millions of years. And to bring that up at this point in time as an issue is I don't know. I think it's frivolous on their part.
Well,
But that's just me.
they want the power of controlling.
Now they're going to zap me. No.
They want the power.
The Guardian group and the Gardeners have never been physically manifested, but their original ascension was from one type of energy being to another. So
They don't have a clue.
They don't get it. They just don't understand, and they're never gonna. So
Very true.
That makes a lot of sense because if they had been in this position, I think
right. I get this. Like,
and that's something that
they're very
Kim
convincing.
is doing whatever they tell her to do, and that's why a lot of times from one week to the next, she seems to flip flop back and forth on things. She's just going with whatever they tell her. So.
Well,
and sometimes that's counterproductive to her own program lengths of time to get there.
Yeah.
When we get to the part where they're talking about
What's
transdimensional
interesting is
stuff.
the way that they have worked it out so that all these divergent groups, ones that are at odds with each other, etc., together in the end. That's what I like. We have another question on the thingy over here.
Purple.
Oh my goodness,
no.
Patty, you okay?
Yeah, I need my albuterol and I don't have one. I've been getting up their ass over it.
How
Oh,
about
the-
a cigarette?
Well, I wish you were close.
Just in the weather here. That spot I've got on my left lung from the pneumonia just refuses to go away. Yeah, I spent 11 days over in the hospital with pneumonia on oxygen.
You should just jump to
and
another
they
dimension and fix it.
nobody around to unlock that. Well, no, I need my here because that's not. I can't roll forward till
I
we
had it marked right. I think I blew it.
for the drop dead date.
I think that
Well,
that'd make good target practice.
Not all the people down in Flat Earth inside are bad. The people that they've convinced, and see, that's the CIA's most prolific program.
well,
is to
because
get
Flat
the
Earth
mental
Dave
in
happens to be a really nice guy. I don't know why he would
Flat
want
Earth Dave.
somebody to shoot.
But most of those are. He's
what?
going to a remedial 3D Earth
There you
with
go.
all the Christos group folks that are stuck under a sole contract with the Anunnaki and the Christos group. I should say the remains of the Christos group, because I wiped out all their original home planets, years ago. That's why upstairs thinks I've lost my perspective. All the revenge and shit that needed to be done, I already did that years ago, and I was pretty, heartless when I did it. So I've wiped out more than 24 entire planets in their entire population. So
Not only that,
2,000
you're
planets.
nice.
This guy knocked out,
No.
dude.
Did you use that shredder?
eventually, upstairs had to shut me down because originally I had an implosion set of tools that I would just chase them down the portal when they tried to run from here. I'd just follow them down their portal, and when open it up, if that was bad guy land, I just tossed it and closed the portal up. So they said, no, you're not allowed to be destroying classrooms. So that's when I developed the shredder here. So I left the classroom behind, just nothing on it.
The thing that Patty's talking about right now is something that the Silver Legion and I ran into, where they told us to cut the crap. And wait a minute, you're ET and you don't talk to us that way usually. Well, this is important and you got to quit. And I said, why should we quit? And they said, because we said so. They did not know who I was at the time, but eventually we got it all together, and we are not limited in terms of capability or functionality. What we're limited in is who we might cause problems for, and a lot of these we're supposed to eventually work with, which is, I think, interesting.
So all of these planets are these people that you chased down. I assume they were all bad guys, or they were doing humanity a disservice.
Well, the Christos group, and because they made the whole fake heaven with the auto recycle matrix and things of that nature. Yeah, the Dracos had a bunch of worlds in the Milky Way, even though they're not originally from the Milky Way. There are some issues out there now, which we're dealing with like. There was a race that was part of the Council of 12, the Zeta Reticuli. Their planet's been taken over by the bad AI. So those are still up in the air because they were members of the Council of 12, although we basically kicked them off because they were given all our information back before the Guardian group showed up to the bad guys, which is why I wanted them kicked off out of the room. But those,
I mean, don't you guys feel comfortable knowing that the fate of the universe is in these guys' hands? I mean, they're looking out for us on a cosmic level every day. They're going to the big councils with all the different aliens that are out there, and they're making sure everything's they're representing us out there. And if it comes down to blowing up some planets ruthlessly, they're willing to do it. And this is the guys we want in front of this problem.
Planet still exists. They're still under control of the what they call the Red Queen or Sophia. The bad AI.
Sophia.
Wow, that's different than what I heard, but okay. So are the Dracos, are you saying that they were the ones in charge of the Christos group, or and as far as soul contracts,
there's
were
like
these
Galactic
people
Federation
who made these contracts, did they have full disclosure?
The Black Sun and Marduk, that was the group that was at the top running everything. Dracos were another layer. Like I said, there was 4 different what would you call them? 4 main control groups, each with their own agenda. Originally, the Dracos were at the top of 2 of those streams.
Thank you for the $20.
You had the Anunnaki and the Christos group on the other side.
Especially the chick. Santa knows aliens. Holy cannoli. Right? I know.
But the black
Thank
sun was
you.
at the top of all of it. That's why we wiped them out and kicked them right out of this reality.
Yep.
Wow.
They,
So
they ain't around anymore.
No.
Bye bye.
I guess what I'm concerned about the Christos group. I don't get why they are. It sounds like you're saying that they have to stay in 3D.
Yeah, well, yeah. Trump's Earth it's a remedial 3D, not here because of all that's going on here. But there's a lot of parallels. He's going to be stuck in a parallel with all the Christmas group folk. They got a replacement Jesus who's camping out on the Ashtray command ship up there. The
Replacement
last one.
Jesus.
There was 4 of them. I've already blown 3 of them up. The main command ship, he's hanging out up there, and as soon as he's off of it, I'm blowing that one too, because they're just corporate, galactic slave trade.
Something I came into that people ought to be aware of. I made a encapsulation pod, containment pod, whatever you want to call it. And the neat part about it is that it does not operate according to what everybody's familiar with. When you get somebody stuffed in it and you close it, they go into an infinity loop.
I think that's exactly what it is, on
Yeah.
target.
And they think that they're doing their thing and everything's cool, and then they get dumped when the pod dumps. They get dumped into what I would term retention room, where you have the same thing, and they think they're doing all these things, meeting all these people, talking to everybody, and all this, and they're not doing squat. It all becomes a part of their imagination. And the neat part about it was, Lucor asked me, and I said I'd see, and me and 2 or 3 other ETs worked on this. We have we now have a containment field that can be initiated to cover a whole solar system, so that these people, they can do all the damage they want to each other.
Drake sure has come a long ways from just being a militia leader trying to lead a coup against the government. Now he's making gigantic containment fields with ETs. It's amazing, isn't it?
They can't harm they can't get outside. They can't harm anybody else. And we figured that was the most humane thing to do, was let them all starve to death or kill each other, whatever they feel like they need to do. And that has been being set up by the Galactics. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, there's another question in the chat I noticed over here, and it's asking, is Mr. T trustworthy, and will he be back in office?
Who is? Oh, Trump? Yeah, they can trust him to be what he is. That's the best thing I can tell you. I personally, let's put it this way: the man's intelligent, articulate. He's got some screwed up beliefs, in my opinion. But the thing about him that everybody finds so distasteful is that he goes off the rails whenever he gets upset, and you can't have somebody doing that sort of thing. It doesn't work well. 6,000 technologies.
Okay.
To
Wait a minute, I'll read them, Drake.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just to
I
keep it
beg your
straight.
pardon. I know I'm wrong for it, Art.
We already did an update on the solar flash and the Nisargas are unfolding worldwide, watching it happen. I don't know that there's anything else that you have to add to that.
Just
that you
a
haven't
quick
already said.
synopsis. A quick synopsis, because we had some platforms where the audio wasn't working.
Oh, okay.
And we still need to finish the subject because, like I said, Trump's going to be on that Earth for, he's got to have at least 1,000 years. That's what the soul contract promise was. They got the replacement Jesus going down there, and from what I understand, they've reconstituted a lower level of Enki to play the father for the fake Jesus.
Yep.
Oh my!
Because the real one is already dead. So, and Enki was an Anunnaki. So, but he was supposedly the best of a bad lot. So, that's,
wow, because they were talking about him. First, he was supposed to be Stitch and said he was a good guy. The other guy was the bad guy. Now he's the bad guy, and it's all switched up. Nonetheless, both of them were slavers.
He was a good guy for us. He was a good guy for us in one respect. He taught humanity how to use Anunnaki tech, which is why we were able to revolt and kick the Anunnaki off the planet. So that's the only way you can look at him from that standpoint. But he was, using us as slaves to mine gold and stuff. It's just he didn't want to oversee us using all their tech, so he taught us how to use it.
Oh my
which
word.
broke the
See,
Anunnaki
my
rules.
sophisticated audience
Okay,
knows all
well,
about it.
somebody's asking about the 6,000 technologies that are
Look
supposed
over
to
the
be
head.
available to heal us. Do we have
They've
any?
already been released. There's more than 1,200 med beds already in circulation on the planet already today. And I'm trying to get set up so I can get into one. But
Well, what's it take for people to know about them and find out about them and be able to make an appointment to be put on one?
good question. I wish I had the answer to that
Well,
because I'd be
okay.
in one already.
All right. So even though they're there,
They're being
apparently-
circulated. They're being used, but certain
but-
people have priority. Of course, the kids, any new kids we pull up get priority that we recover. So,
Okay.
but from what I understand, they're being used on shutdown military bases.
Well, somebody's
Is
asking.
where they're using it.
Okay.
That next
Some.
question is going to be another.
I'm going to bypass that one for 1 minute, and
No.
then I'm going to do. I'll come
Jump
back to
right
it.
in.
How does anyone know what their soul contracts are in order to change it if we don't agree now, because they have new information?
If you had a soul contract, you'd know it. You wouldn't be sitting here talking to us. Period.
Okay. Somebody's asking about mandatory jabs for
That's not going to happen.
healthcare workers, and when will the kids be 6 months to 5 months to 5
Yep.
stop? Is that going to stop anytime soon?
I don't.
I
think
just
we should
saw
go-
a
we should go
whistleblower
stop some of these guys
on
one night,
caskets that
Jacob.
they ordered more caskets for basically made for children than they've ever used in like 5 years or something like that. It's insane.
The
It's
bad
very-
guys can't.
very
You
disturbing.
can't even explain to the bad guys that they lost. The ones that are still out there.
They
The rest
just
are all actors, so they're going to keep playing the along with the script for the play.
What happens to those people? Are they the ones that'll
if-
stay when the solar flash comes?
If they're out, if they're part of the play, they're either got put over a barrel to do it, or they're clones or something else, and it doesn't matter. There aren't going to be any clones going forward afterwards.
And we stick one wire in each one of their ears and plug it in the wall socket, and you don't have to worry about it no more.
Okay.
All righty then.
That's just everything. Depends on what you're willing to do.
Well, somebody's asking how they can
And-
stop the you know what for healthcare workers by saying no.
Yeah, everybody, all the
Yeah, you
health
say no.
workers and everybody say, I ain't doing it.
No, I'm not doing it. Exactly. Let them fire you. If that's what they say they're going to do, because all of a sudden, if everybody sticks together and unites like we should, they would it wouldn't be an issue. They
And if
wouldn't
they
have any
fired you over
workers.
that, you could sue them.
And why put your life in jeopardy?
Yeah.
Anyway,
And that's pretty much only going on in the 12 Democrat controlled states at this point, because everybody else is pretty much going back to business as it was before.
okay. See what they're worried
It
about
depends
is
on where you live in this country is just how bad it is. And I happen to live in a Democrat state too. So
Well,
That's why I live in the
there's people that are saying it sounds easy, but you need to make money. Okay. Well, the only thing that you have to do is file, write down a affidavit, get it notarized, and deliver that to your
T-Rex and
employer.
Daisy, welcome
say,
to the winner circle. You guys are
I'm not
already in the
gonna do
winner
that.
circle,
If
but
you
welcome to
force
the
me to do
membership
that,
version.
You are put on notice that you are personally liable for any damages that occur. And if you let me go because of that, you are also personally liable for exceeding your jurisdiction and ordering me to do something that is not in my employment contract. It's just
they're also liable for your pay
lost
going
wages,
forward.
lost wages,
Lost wages
punitive
going
damages,
forward.
okay.
the whole thing.
Lady Arm Sky.
All right.
Scott
Another
for
one
freedom.
or a question or an issue. Is
Cinegram.
but that doesn't work to
Suzanne.
find a new job
Danielle.
without
All right, I
that
know everybody
requirement,
here.
not currently with a
Move-
company. That's
move
not
out of the
true.
winner circle.
That's
Move
not
out of
true.
you got to move out of your Democrat state. That's all.
Either move or take up a different profession. That doesn't make that kind of requirement. If they start losing everybody because of that, they're going to have to figure out something else to do, and they're going to compromise. It's
This place
the
here.
biggest problem that I see is there's too much compliance when people should be saying, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not risking my life
place-
for any job. You
Well,
don't have a right to tell me what I have to do with my body. Thank you very much. Anyway, go ahead, Patty. I'm sorry.
I'm in a healthcare facility, Plymouth Harborside. It's
bet.
a retirement
Hotel.
community for the elderly as well as
Right,
medical rehab. They're down to a skeleton crew to be. But so
Get back to the alien stuff.
And I said,
be leaving here shortly before me. So, good luck with that.
Well,
And there's a whole group of folks who like we're talking like 30,000 of them who came in here from outside the Milky Way, who thought they were just going to annex the entire Milky Way and make it a part of their empire. That got caught up in here too. I don't even know what they're going to do with those. That's another whole mess entirely.
Okay, it's my understanding that Drake needs to leave. Is that true?
Yeah.
Drake?
There you go.
Okay.
All right.
Let's let Drake answer the last question and then duck out. What things?
All right,
might you see
Drake.
Before the
Give us a good out here. Good exit.
Did you hear that, Drake?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I guess you were contemplating. Okay.
You're gonna see a combination of things that only people that have had heavy acid trips have seen. The malformation of shapes, colors, and insights where you can see through things, among other deals that go along with it. Along with this, you're going to have about every kind of a physical sensation you can think of. What will you see? Well, think about going down a road, going on a roller coaster, and being able to see what you feel, and then you get some sort of idea. Okay.
Okay, someone was asking, is this classroom coming to an end by the end of 2022, or is the upstairs going to drag this on and on and on?
We already talked about the drop dead date, which was November 3rd. So now it's been bumped back to October 3rd. Again, we talked about the whole calendar issue, depending on which calendar we're looking at. But no, there's not even going to be any midterm elections or any of that crap. So
we're heading into an area where people have not gone before, supposedly, even though many have. What you're going to look at is that a lot of people have their own ideas about what is to be done, what's going to happen. The ideas that I have accepted and propounded and talked about come from ET themselves. These are the people that are helping set this up and get it ready and help us to be ready. And then it will assist us after we go from 3-2-4. We are not going to have a long drag out. Not going to happen.
Oh,
Okay,
just like inner flat Earth is a mirror image of out here. That's why when the CIA mentally gets people to believe in flat Earth and everything, they transfer there because it's an exact duplicate 4D, with the exception of all the new tech and everything, is similar. So no, you don't take any of your clothes or your belongings or any of that crap with you when you go, and you're not even going to recognize that you went.
So if you don't have your belongings and your clothes, does that mean you're going to arrive where you're going naked?
Naked as a daybird.
No.
Oh man, I cannot imagine some of the politicians appearing naked on national TV. That would be a horror show all its own.
Well, hopefully most of them will be gone anyway.
Bye, guys. I gotta go.
Okay, bye.
All right.
It's
There you have it, man. There you have it. Drake out. Bye, guys. Gotta go. He's got work to do. Interdimensional aliens and the councils and all kinds of new things, man. So there you have it, man. Original Drake, man. I mean, original Q, Drake Kent Bailey. There's the story, guys. It's been real. It's been a roller coaster from beginning to end. You see the entire evolution of a profound grifter, part of internet history, if you will. Amazing things come out of that man's mind and mouth. It's too funny. Oh man, yeah, CIA has transdimensional technology. Oh yeah, man. What did you guys think of that guy, huh? Pretty wild, huh? Yep. He thwarted his plans to co-opt the Juan Paul movement way back in the day, and here he is today. He's out there protecting us from all kinds of things we can't see, you know. I think so. But stay tuned because I'm sure he'll have more crazy predictions and possibilities for the future. And let's hope old Drake just stays out there, just entertaining us for years to come. Bless his heart, right? Bless his heart. Oh man, I hope you guys had fun tonight. I did. I think it was just a lot better than watching this debate. Oh man, it's great. It's great. This is finally coming along. I've been promising this since I started streaming, and here you have it, man. Now you know everything about Drake Kent Bailey, the original Q, and why he was the first one to come up with the plan and what became of his wild adventures, right? Yeah, thanks and I thank all of y'all for being here for the ride too, man. It's been fun. I'm glad you guys were uh, stuck through all of some of the tedium of it, but we're interested in the story and liked it. Well, maybe we should go over and visit Drake one day. I think we should do that. I'm not sure if I had fun or not. Dude pressed all my tism buttons tonight. Yeah, well, he'll do that. He'll do that. But when you see where he ended up, now you know why, right? It's Alien Day at the old folks' home. I know. These cast of characters he ended up with were quite entertaining. When I found this, I was like, "Oh my gosh, Drake, what has become of you?" Oh man, yeah, that's fun for everybody. Well, guys, I will be back tomorrow night with Repairing History Together with Gary Lamb. Now, I have a new short out. I hope you've seen it. With Thomas Sowell. We're going to be doing all Thomas Sowell tomorrow night, and for many weeks to come because we're trying to get him on the show. We're going to be covering his new book, Social Justice Fallacies, and we're going to be going through an interview that he recently did with the Hoover Institute. He does great interviews with that guy at the Hoover Institute. I don't know his name, but he does great interviews with him. And man, we're going to have a good time. Gary and I are going to sit there and watch it, and we're going to stop it and comment on it. And I've seen the whole thing. I don't know if he's watched it yet or not, but there's going to be some moments in there, some big moments in that stream. So I hope you'll join us. And this Saturday night, I will have Strategic Eyes on. Strategic Eyes, we're going to be discussing all kinds of things having to do with law enforcement and the future of law enforcement and, the ins and outs of that. And I'm sure we'll come up with other things to talk about. I've been on stream with him before, but I've never done an interview with him. I think it's going to be awesome. Thomas Anderson, how's it going? What's going on? Oh, we're just wrapping up here, man. But we're covering the Drake rabbit hole tonight. You have to rewind and watch it. But original Q, he was the first one to come out back in 2012 with a plan, right? And a lot of his blueprint was used by QAnon in subsequent years to again try to rope patriots into making bad decisions. When is the stream tomorrow night? Or the stream tomorrow night is at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Yes, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. I'll be me and Gary doing the Thomas Sowell's new book, Social Justice Fallacies, and this is a great one. And if you check out the short that I put out with Gary's help, he helped me put that together because Gary is the master of shorts. Man, his shorts get like millions of views. It's crazy. Mine's actually doing really well. I think it's almost up to maybe 400, which is good for me as far as shorts go. It's really good. So T3 just posted the link to the short in the chat. So if you guys want to check it out, it's right there. Let me find out, is anybody out there who we can go pop in on? I'm here wrapping it up here and just at the end, just to see. Let's see. I need to do this. Click that and go here. Let's see who's out there tonight. And I learned my lesson last time that I need to just do this at the last moment. Oh, MG Law's rolling. Good Logic's rolling. Let's go see MG Law. Why not? They're having some fun over there. Looks like they're doing the Bradley Yawn sentencing and bonus sovereign citizen and yeah, some sovereign citizen stuff. That'll be fun. Helma said hi. I'll be over there in a minute to say hello. But yeah, so I'll be back Saturday night at 9 p.m. Eastern with Strategic Eyes. And again, tomorrow night at 7:30 with Gary Lamb. And this Sunday, I cannot stress enough how important this Sunday is with T3 and myself. We will be covering a couple of issues that have seemed to fall through the cracks, but are more important now than ever. That is the safety of our water and our food. Okay. And we're going to be looking at a couple old documentaries. I think we're going to have 3 things for you. We're going to have the fluoride deception. All right. And we'll also be covering Seeds of Death. And then thanks to Crown Target, we also have some a bonus story at the end from Redacted about the future of food and what they're working on right now as far as meat and the replacement for that meat. So I can't tell you how important this is. This if you want to see me get spicy, come Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to get super spicy because the food and water issues really get to me, man. I mean, this is something we fought hard about back in the day, and it seemed to have fallen through the cracks. We need to raise awareness about this again. And I'm going to show you why it's so important this Sunday. So please come join us. Have a chill time with us at the well, it won't be that chill this time at the Old School Watch Party Sundays. Okay, and we're going to be watching 2 very important documentaries and then a report at the end about the current situation. So if you don't know about these things, you're going to be very educated on the matter by the time the show's over on Sunday. Yeah, Spacey, yeah, egg him on. Yeah, you see, T-Rex knows. He helped me do the previewing as well as T3. I guess I'm going to scratch it and listen to the Demi Gala's Wild Women with Steak Knives. I don't know what that is, but it sounds good. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for being here. I'll see you soon. And until next time, y'all keep on winning.